Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the New York City Council Hybrid Committee of the Committees of Economic Development, Contracts, Oversight, and Investigations. If anybody wants to testify today, you can sign up with the Sergeant at Arms in the back of the room, and we'll be more than happy to provide you with a witness slip. Those folks that are joining us on Zoom, you can send any written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov. At this time, everybody please silence all electronic devices. Chair, we're ready to begin.
Good afternoon and welcome to this joint hybrid hearing of Economic Development, Contracts, and Oversight and Investigations Committees of the New York City Council. Today is Monday, June 27th, 2022. My name is Amanda Farias, and I have the privilege of chairing this hearing alongside my colleagues, Councilmember Julie Wan, Chair of the Contracts Committee, and Councilmember Gail Brewer, Chair of the Oversight and Investigations Committee. I'd like to thank both of my co-chairs and the members of all three committees for coming together for this hearing. We're joined today by Council members Linda Lee and Joanne Ariola and Sandy Nurse. The purpose of this hearing today is to discuss a pair of bills relating to food procurement and translation and interpretation services. The first bill, Introduction 517, sponsored by Speaker Adams along with myself and Councilmember Wan, would create a good food purchasing program and advisory board to establish standards and goals for the purchase of food products by city agencies. These standards include 5 so-called value categories, which include animal welfare, environmental sustainability, health, local economies, and a valued workforce. The advisory board would conduct assessments of each agency's food procurement processes, then develop plans to assist those agencies in achieving the standards and goals set forth in the Good Food Purchasing Program. The advisory board would consist of 14 members, 7 appointed by the Speaker and 7 appointed by the Mayor, with knowledge of each of the value categories. The board would regularly produce reports to the Mayor and Speaker on agency progress towards achieving the goals of the Good Food Purchasing Program. Developing ways to improve the quality of city food procurement is nothing new for the Council. The last 4 City Council speakers have all worked closely with advocates in the food policy community to ensure that, whenever possible, city agencies choose to purchase quality local food from New York. Through the leadership of Councilmember Brewer, during her first stint as a council member, the council passed Local Law 50 back in 2011, which enabled city agencies to develop guidelines for price preferences for certain New York food products. The mechanism for this price preference equates to a 10% preferred equivalent to the standard lowest competitive sealed bid. In practice, this means if a responsible bidder from outside New York State were to offer a price of $1 for a bushel of apples, and the same bidder from within New York State were to offer $1.10 for the same type of apples, then the price preference would make them functionally equivalent. While we applaud the public efforts made by the administration in support of procuring local food, the numbers in support of Local Law 50 tell a different story. Chair Brewer will discuss this in further detail, but suffice to say, the number of vendors who have sent surveys pursuant to Local Law 50 is embarrassingly low, and the number who have responded is small enough to be statistically insignificant. For each of the last 5 fiscal years, only a handful of food vendors even responded with information regarding their local food procurement numbers. In fiscal year 2021, for example, only 2 out of 35 vendors even responded. It is difficult for the Council as the oversight body of the City of New York, or for local food advocates and the public, to make any meaningful conclusions about the success of local food procurement initiatives if the data regarding those initiatives is unavailable. Today, we hope to hear more about what efforts are being made by the administration to encourage food suppliers to include information about local food procurement. We plan to hear from the Mayor's Office of Food Policy, the Mayor's Office of Contract Services, and the Department of Citywide Administrative Services in what efforts they have made to improve the quality of food they purchase, and how the spirit of Introduction 517 would fit into the citywide procurement plans. Before we begin, I would also like to thank the Economic Development Committee staff, Committee Counsel Alex Polinoff, Senior Policy Analyst William Hoggatch, and Finance Unit Head Alia Ali for their work on this hearing. Finally, before we hear from the administration, I'd like to turn to my co-chair, Julie Wan, to say a few words about the second bill before the committees today, proposed introduction 136A. Councilmember Wan, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Chair Farias, and thank you to Chair Brewer and Speaker Adams for your leadership on food policy. I'm proud to be a co-sponsor on Introduction 517, since it is a welcomed addition to the Council's longstanding efforts to promote good quality food in our city's schools, senior centers, correction facilities, and other spaces supported by public funds. I'm also here as the Chair of Contracts Committee to discuss a bill I sponsored, proposed Introduction 136A. This bill would require city agencies to develop and utilize a preferred vendor list for community integrated translation and interpretation services. The vendor list would need to include providers in at least 100 languages beyond the current requirement of translating city documents into the 10 non-English languages that are most spoken in the city. The contracts for these services, telephonic translations in particular, often go to large translation services companies outside of New York who typically are not proficient in many of the very non-standard dialects that are spoken by the city's immigrant communities. As a result, many of these communities rely on informal arrangements with family, friends, or community centers to have critical documents translated, and usually with no financial support from the city. Other municipalities, such as Washington, D.C., have so-called banks of community-integrated legal translation service providers who recruit, train, and dispatch legal interpreters throughout the city. Many of the staff at these providers are based on the communities they serve, which makes them even more culturally responsive than the faraway telephonic translators. This preferred list would empower these small community-based translators and interpreters by providing them with a great access to city contracts. This would support providers who currently conduct these services, often for free at personal expense. Notably, this preferred vendor list would not extend to contracts for interpretation or translation services in excess of the city's small purchase limits, currently up to $500,000 for certified minority and women-owned businesses and $100,000 for all other firms. 27 council members have already signed on to proposed introduction 136A, and I encourage my colleagues who are not sponsored to sign on as well. This bill would improve engagement with government services for many of the city's immigrant communities and could provide a lifeline to many informal translators and interpreters who currently volunteer their time to conduct this critical work. Before we begin, I would also like to thank the Contracts Committee Counsel, Alex Polinoff, for all of his hard work on this hearing. And finally, before we hear from the administration, I'd like to turn to my co-chair, Gail Brewer.
Thank you very much, Chair Wong. And I am Gail Brewer, and I'm chair of the Committee on Oversight and Investigations. And I certainly want to thank Councilmember Wan and Farias and for their work on Intro 517, which I know is controversial to some, but I too am a co-sponsor and support it strongly. This committee today, all of us, are going to be addressing one of the most persistent challenges, and those in the administration know that I've been working on this for a very long time. We have to figure out how the city of New York, one of the largest purchasers of food in the country, I think second only to the military. We need to buy our food from local New York State sources, maybe even New Jersey and Connecticut, but definitely locally. And for city agencies, buying local should be a no-brainer. It has come up positively in all the reports that the agencies have written in the past. New York has, as we know, many great food products. We're a leader. Dairy, beef, apples, cabbage, onions, squash, potatoes, lettuce. And purchasing these products from the farmers and producers helps support the state economy, and we all want to save the local farmers. And if we purchase upstate, then we're able to help those in the Finger Lakes, all the way up to counties like Hamilton that are not able to come down to the farmers' markets. In addition, I have been emphasizing for many years that food purchased locally take less time to ship. It arrives fresher, lasts longer, and has a lighter impact on the environment. The lettuce coming from California has to be on that stupid truck for 2 weeks, and by the time it gets here, it is not got a long shelf life. The problem is that under New York State procurement laws, city agencies are permitted, yes, to favor food products grown and introduced in our state, as long as the price falls within 10% of the bid price offered by the lowest responsible bidder. All of these are challenges. In addition, when soliciting bids, agencies can mandate that certain products come from our state. They can also consider factors such as the length of time from harvest to delivery when determining which vendor provides the quote-unquote best value. These common sense rules do give the city agencies much needed leeway to purchase food from in-state sources, and it is absolutely essential that agencies take full advantage of this leeway when purchasing food for the city. But when I talk to city agencies, they always say, well, what happens if these strawberries are not in season? Then for God's sake, go to California for the strawberries, but buy them locally when they're in season. In 2011, during my first stint at the City Council, as you heard earlier, I introduced legislation that builds upon these state rules, and they're challenging the state rules, and we know we have to change them, to further encourage city agencies and vendors to prioritize food grown here in New York State. That legislation, Local Law 50, requires the city's chief procurement officer to provide city agencies with a variety of tools to help them purchase food locally. The law requires also city agencies to collect data from their vendors to track how much of the food purchased by the city actually comes from in-state sources, and I know that's not easy to get that data from the vendors. We can talk about that later. However, as you heard earlier, agencies have fallen short in their efforts to collect this information. In FY21, as you heard earlier, only 2 out of 35 vendors responded to Local Law 50 to the survey, and that response has been below 10% in 3 out of the past 5 years, so 2021 was not alone. In 2020, as Borough President, I testified before the Committee on Contracts about the need for city agencies to improve their data collection under Local Law 50. We cannot run a successful local food purchasing program unless we know where the food we buy is coming from. And I understand that agencies face challenges in getting vendors to respond to the surveys. I'm willing to call every single one of those vendors, personally. We have to do better. A regular response rate, 5 to 10%, is not acceptable. And so today, we'll be looking at the Mayor's Office of Contract Services to help us identify ways to improve data collection under Local Law 50. We'll address a number of other important issues related to the city's food procurement practices based on Local Law Intro 517. And one issue I've been vocal about for many years is getting fresh food to be located at Rikers Island and other Department of Correction facilities. That's DCAS's problem. DCAS orders for senior, they order for correction, and they also order one other agency, all of the HRA, Human Services. But it seems to me, correction, having just been there last week, the food is horrific, and there's no reason it can't be fresh. So I look forward to hearing about this issue. If the mayor wants everybody to eat plant-based, I'm not so good on plant-based. But if we want to eat plant-based, at least should be fresh. Then we can eat it. So I would like to thank the members of the central staff who helped put this hearing together, Alex Polinoff, William Hungage, and C.J. Murray, who's, thank you very much, here, and our legislative director, Leo Bolero, my office, and Shula Puder, Chief of Staff, who's been working on this issue for 10 years. Thank you, and I'll turn it back over to Chair Farias. Thank you.
Thank you so much, co-chairs. I'd like to also acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Williams. And so let's just jump right in. 1 second. I lied. We're not going to jump right in. I'm going to pass it over to our council for next steps.
Members of the administration, would you all please raise your right hands for the oath? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before these committees today, and to respond honestly to council member questions? Thank you. You can begin when ready.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to also acknowledge Councilmember Riley, who is present virtually. So in terms of food governance, I'd like to ask some questions just to set the tone and the foundation of this hearing. The Mayor's Office of Food Policy was created by executive order over a decade ago and codified into law last session. What have been the main achievements of the Mayor's Office of Food Policy since it was codified into law?
Do you want me to respond to the question before doing the testimony?
Oh, my goodness, I'm so sorry.
That's
yes,
okay.
Testimony first. You know, we've just been going through these virtually that it's so new to be in person. I would absolutely love to hear your testimony first. I feel like that might be critical to this hearing. The thing is that I read everything ahead of time. Sorry. Yes, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Farias, Chair Wan, Chair Brewer, and members of the committees. My name is Kate McKenzie, and I'm the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Food Policy. Joining me today are my colleagues from the Mayor's Office of Contract Services and the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. Thank you for inviting me here today to talk about our Good Food Purchasing Program. In 2017, the city began exploring the National Good Food Purchasing Program, a program created by the Center for Good Food Purchasing, or I'll call them the Center. That program sets specific standards around 5 value areas that you've mentioned: nutrition, local economies, animal welfare, a valued and fair workforce, and environmental sustainability. As one of the country's largest institutional food purchasers, as Member Brewer pointed out, it makes sense to align our purchases with the administration's priorities and values. The city sought to learn more about where our food comes from and how it is produced so it could make more informed choices. For example, about ways to increase participation of New York State and minority and women-owned business enterprises, MWBE vendors. Health and Hospitals was the first city-affiliated entity to engage with the center, followed by the Department of Education. These entities shared their available procurement data with the Center for Good Food Purchasing for analysis. In 2019, when I assumed this position, additional city agencies were included into this work: the Administration for Children's Services, the Department of Correction, the Department of Homeless Services, and the Human Resource Administration. The Department for the Aging also began collecting data, but as its food procurements are conducted via subcontractors and human service contracts, this proved especially challenging. Each agency began the process of asking its vendors for detailed information about the food they provide to the city. While one might think that getting information about the origin and methods of production of food would be easy, it's not, especially because vendors had no requirement to report this information to the city. Since the establishment of nutrition standards by the city in 2008, the city has required vendor adherence to these standards. Vendors have become accustomed to sharing comprehensive nutritional information with the city at the time of contract award and throughout the duration of the contract. Our efforts to obtain this detailed information about where the food was coming from were extensive, yet did not yield complete results. The City of New York is not unique in that way, for the entire U.S. food system is complex and opaque. It's unfortunately the norm and something that the city is on a path to shifting. In addition to expanding the number of agencies that participated in data collection, the Mayor's Office of Food Policy began convening monthly meetings with agencies in November of 2019. The purpose of these meetings was to build understanding and awareness of good food purchasing values and how agencies could support them with their food purchases. At the same time, we also began regularly meeting with the law department to build support for the work. With DCAS, we hosted a vendor expo to highlight opportunities for working with MWBE businesses. MOFP secured philanthropic dollars that resulted in a formal contract, the first contract with the Center for Good Food Purchasing, to do those agency assessments and overall vendor analysis. We also contracted with Karen Karp and Partners to support agencies and develop agency action plans. And in March of 2020, most city programs paused their meal programs as we knew them as a result of the pandemic. In February of 2021, the city released its first ever 10-year food policy plan, Food Forward NYC, pursuant to Local Law 40 of 2020, which included knowledge learned from the COVID-19 pandemic and incorporated an integrated approach to the Good Food Purchasing program. The Food Forward report demonstrated the role of good food purchasing in addressing all 5 of the goals outlined in Food Forward. MOFP also created a specific citywide good food purchasing strategy and resumed our efforts with city agencies with a renewed energy and very real food chain experiences as a result of the pandemic. MOFP committed to unprecedented transparency, and in September of 2021, this information was all shared to our website. To our knowledge, no other city has shared this level of information. We also released raw data on our food purchases, including prices to the extent legally possible, and intend to continue doing so on an annual basis. From the extensive engagement the city has conducted with stakeholders across the food system, we learned that a major barrier to participation of small vendors is the lack of understanding that institutional food contracts look very different from individual food service. So, we shared this information to enable small food vendors to understand what institutional demand looks like, the type of foods needed, and the amount of each type of food. Further, in October of 2021, New York City became the first U.S. city to sign the Cool Food Pledge, in which signatories seek to collectively reduce the climate impact of food served by 25% by the year 2030. Sharing this information aims to help food purchasers, consumers, advocates, and the public more broadly understand the impact of food choices and to encourage the purchase of more climate-friendly food options. As part of signing on to this pledge, the city provided with definitive metrics and objective data on our food-related carbon emissions. In February of 2022, Mayor Adams formalized the city's commitment to good food purchasing by issuing Executive Order 8, the Commitment to Health and Nutrition, Food Standards, and Good Food Purchasing. This executive order directs all agencies that procure and serve food to participate in good food purchasing and emphasizes data collection and transparency as the backbone of the program's implementation. In April of this year, MOFP launched the city's first interactive food and climate dashboard, which includes information regarding the carbon footprint of the city's food purchases. The dashboard was developed with input from key stakeholders, and it utilizes food purchase data from fiscal 2019 and again will be updated annually. Throughout this journey, MOFP has learned many things. First, nearly every agency procures food differently. The types of food, the length of the contract, and the type of the contract vary depending on the scope and services needed. Many city agencies adhere to federal and state grant requirements that restrict what they can purchase. The recipients of food range from young kids to older adults, and those serving sizes also vary. In some cases, we buy commodities, like apples, and in other cases, we buy complete and prepared meals. Each agency procures and serves food differently, so we need to tailor the approach to meet their needs. This is reflected in the drafting and execution of their contracts and in working with the agency staff who are responsible for developing menus based on the food that is procured pursuant to those contracts. Simply stated, it's not a one-size-fits-all program. Contracts average about 3 years, which affects the cadence with which any policy changes is reflected in the text of active contracts. Food contracts alone do not provide many opportunities to affect timely change. We're also mapping the process of solicitation development and implementation for each agency in order to create more robust interagency support and accountability. This is vital for timely action on contracting and data collection. Second learning, robust and complete data from vendors is essential. This is why Executive Order 8 is so important. For each new contract with vendors, we are directing them to require and use our data template to make sure that we get data annually. We have an informed understanding on the complex and overlapping state and federal legal frameworks that govern the city's purchasing of food. We are committed to pursuing a food purchasing program that is bold and impactful, but any program that the city pursues must be aligned with state and federal law. We know that agency staff want to advance this initiative. They want to learn and exchange ideas, and we need programmatic opportunities in addition to contractual opportunities for them to do so. City agency staff are the front lines of this work, whether they're nutritionists, program managers, operational staff, chefs, or the procurement staff themselves. They're doing the vast majority of work to implement this program. They are also those coordinating annual data collection from food vendors and holding them accountable to our data collection standards. As we develop and set new performance metrics connected to those 5 value areas, they will be in charge of working with support from MOFP and their agency towards those goals. They also have the responsibility of promoting interagency communications, sharing best practices, innovative ideas, and challenges amongst each other. We're ensuring the city's good food purchasing program has the greatest possible impact by aligning its performance measure framework with other citywide initiatives. We're also designing a program that works for New Yorkers, which means making sure what we do is understandable to the public. This will promote greater transparency in government, but is also critical to another goal of this administration, removing barriers to public engagement in government decision-making. The public-facing dashboard is an important initial step in this process. Through this dashboard, everyone has the opportunity to learn what we buy as a city, and on an agency-by-agency basis. To achieve faster rates of improvement, we're looking for opportunities for change within existing contracts, like changing some menu items, in addition to contractual changes. The Mayor's Office of Food Policy is working with Public Works Partners, a local consulting firm, on identifying opportunities to make it easier for small food vendors, particularly New York State MWBE vendors, to do business with the cities. My colleagues at the Mayor's Office of Contract Services have also made it a priority to streamline the procurement process and make it simpler for vendors to do business with the city. In partnership with the City Council, they're focused on cutting red tape, bringing visibility for all parties, and updating the regulatory framework to match the new digital system for procurement. The Mayor's Office of Food Policy is committed to the success of this work. We will continue to work with the law department and agency procurement officers to develop policy pathways for good food purchasing implementation. We will continually develop strategies to support implementation, such as the use of data templates, product catalogs, obtaining guidance on solicitations, and helping to connect potential vendors and agencies. We'll also work to develop accountability mechanisms by developing performance metrics around process and data completion, as well as, of course, specific program goals. As I've stated a number of times, sharing all information we obtain and learn is a priority. Good food purchasing is essential for achieving Mayor Adams' food policy goals for more nutritious, delicious, and plant-powered options. All New Yorkers deserve to know where their food comes from, and we are committed to using the power of procurement to impact the city's and our planet's health. We look forward to continuing to work closely with the City Council, the New York City Good Food Purchasing Coalition, advocates, business, and New York City residents on the implementation of this program. Thank you.
And right before we hear testimony from Kim Yu, I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues, Council Members Joseph and Gennaro, who were present.
Good afternoon, Chair Wan, Chair Farias, and Chair Brewer, and members of the committees before us today. My name is Kim Yu, and I'm Chief of Staff at the Mayor's Office of Contract Services, otherwise known as MOCS. I'm grateful for this opportunity to testify before you all today. I'm joined by MOCS General Counsel Ann Meredith and Deputy Chief of Staff Matthew Sullivan. We appreciate you calling this hearing on the important topics in front of us. And I want to let you know that our office is always open to host discussions on how we can lead procurement reform, a key strategic priority of our agency in this new administration. MOCS is an oversight agency focused on ensuring regulatory compliance in city procurement while also leading improvements to the procurement process. Our mission is to fulfill our required oversight role while driving equity, innovation, accountability, excellence, and reform to create the equitable procurement system New Yorkers deserve. As part of this work, MOCS sometimes takes the role of supporting particular policy areas, such as food procurement and language services, through strategic consulting, process guidance, and data aggregation, while deferring to subject matter experts for policy direction. My testimony today will focus on language access services citywide and Intro 136, while my fellow panelist, Director Kate McKinsey, testified on the aspects of this hearing related to food policy. However, Ann, Matt, our colleagues from DCAS, and I will be available for questions regarding food procurement our agency is similarly available to hold conversations in the coming days relating to how we can improve the city's food purchasing procedures with any of the council members and their staff. I want to start by commending Councilmember Wan's focus on expanding language access so that the city services and opportunities can reach all New Yorkers. This is fully in line with our vision at MOCS and many of the strategic initiatives we have been working on, where equity is a guiding theme. It is imperative that city services are available and accessible to all New Yorkers, as we have experienced in a pronounced way through the pandemic and recovery period. MOCS has taken steps to improve language accessibility with respect to the services we provide. We now have a dedicated language access page on our website, which is in the process of offering translations for many vendor-facing resources we use to explain our procurement process and systems to vendors. Similarly, visitors to our website can request a phone interpreter through our service desk who can help guide them through our materials and systems. These telephonic interpretation services are available in over 200 languages. MOCS is also committed to ensuring that language services are available to our agency partners. We have worked closely with MOIA, the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, to convene a series of coordination meetings with our agency partners regarding their own contracting for language access services in an effort to expand MWBE participation and to ensure that services mayoral agencies procure are tailored to the communities they serve. This has been an exciting project, and I look forward to sharing out results as we move forward. MOCS welcomes further dialogue on these projects and the bills in front of us. We look forward to learning more about Intro 136 and share goals of expanding language access and ensuring all New Yorkers are able to utilize services and opportunities available through their government. Once again, I thank you all for taking the time to convene this hearing and engaging on these important topics. We are fully committed to working with each member to devise solutions to continue improving the procurement process, and I welcome your feedback on strategic initiatives we've shared so far. With that being said, we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you. We'll now move to questions from the chairs. As a reminder to any council members who wish to testify remotely, please use the Zoom raise hand function and you'll be added to the queue for questions. Chairs, you may begin when ready.
Clearly, I was ready earlier, so thank you. So can you just reiterate some of the main achievements of MOFP since it was codified into law?
Sure. Thank you for the question. It was just in those weeks before the pandemic began, when the office became codified into law. And a few of the things that I've noted in the testimony, but also want to call out, are the execution of Food Forward NYC, which was an intended, I believe it was Local Law 40 required report. And I'm very proud of that report, and will continue to provide progress reports on that. I believe in February of 2023 will be the first report. Also, clearly, all of the work that I outlined around good food purchasing, getting through and returning back to as much business as new normal we can with agencies and their meal provisions, certainly supporting those agencies and picking up with the patterns and rhythms of good food purchasing. You know, on the heels of this administration in particular, in February, there were 2 executive orders, 8 and 9, certainly formalizing a commitment to good food purchasing and also requiring an update to food standards. Those food standards are groundbreaking in many ways by integrating sustainability in a very real and tangible way. And all agencies will get into sync and compliance with those by July of 2023. And additionally, and I think it was the last hearing in this room in person that I participated in, we talked a lot about the HRA's Emergency Food Assistance Program. I'm very proud that we're in the last days of negotiating and executing a contract that will formally make fresh fruits and vegetables part of that program, making some real additions also across the board to cultural and ethnic meals and meal types, really integrating all of the lessons of COVID into the fact that we now have a food policy office that is understood across the city, whether it's economic development, transportation, human services. That's a real legacy and I think positive lining on the COVID experience. I'll also note that certainly we are, with the good food purchasing, with the Cool Food Pledge, we are the first country in the city, first city in the country to endorse and become a signatory of that work. And that's really putting us more squarely in the space of climate change and acknowledging the role that food policy plays in climate. Certainly with all agencies, but I'm going to particularly lift up the Department of Education here. We meet weekly with that office on, again, the continuation of getting back to as normal as possible with schools and the school meal services. We were in lockstep with them around making sure that plant-powered Fridays could be rolled out successfully. And certainly as we get into the summer months and then going back to school next year, I'm really eager about what's to come for students, including my 2 public school students. And then finally, I will just say that we had unprecedented, much in large part due to the council, unprecedented investments in food in the fiscal 23 budget, from $30 million additional dollars in DSS for food distribution to $50 million for cafeteria expansion program at DOE, to expansions of NYCHA, urban farms, Groceries to Go, which is a very innovative pilot that will be operated through the health department, and that's just a few. So I think it's, certainly this administration feels strongly about the role of food policy to better serve New Yorkers.
Thank you for that, and we all really appreciate you highlighting the work in the recent budget of committing ourselves to to our communities for food policy. So thank you for that. I was excited to hear how often you were using some of the data points and meeting frequently with the agencies that are working with the Mayor's Office of Food Policy. So just around some of these shared goals that you had listed, do these goals and strategic plans happen or are discussed during those meetings? Do the agencies share these goals, or do they develop them separately from MOFB?
Thank you for that question. I will say that since we published what were known as assessments, and we engaged with the Center for Good Food Purchasing to complete them, we received a great deal of feedback from stakeholders, both internal and external, wishing to see a more streamlined and interactive assessments that are written in relatively plain language and directly link to what city agencies can do to make improvements. So the reflection on that is our new food and climate dash, right? And that will continue to build out across all of those values. Right now, we've got certainly the breakdown just by agency and what they're buying, and then certainly the climate goals, which is attributable also to the environmental sustainability piece, but we'll be building out the local economy's value, and certainly looking at New York State, as very akin to Local Law 50, so that you can just see across the board what are we buying from New York State vendors in a very simple and clear data place. What I will also say is that we are a leader across the country, and other cities are looking to us. So as we publish those action plans, they're going to change. They're not set in stone. When those were written, we didn't have Executive Order 8. So now agencies are also, some of them have new leadership as well, and certainly a new administration. So certain goals will become more refined, and others that we haven't named will get expressed.
Okay, great. And what do you describe as your role from MOFP in coordinating all of these city agencies to make sure the goals are still met?
Sure. So our role, in addition to the convening factor, right, of talking with city agencies, ensuring that there's leadership support. We clearly have a mayor who talks a lot about food, and from his lips to to commissioners down, we know that this is also not just about the program staff, but it is about the ACOs. And so very recently I was on a call with all of the citywide ACOs to express very clearly, we now have Executive Order 8. Here is the date, here's what we're requesting from all vendors, here is what we need to include, and I need your help in in enabling the city to advance this. We never had that type of commitment and direct action that we could take before. I would also say, we convene a regional food working group with the Department of City Planning to really use that raw data. I mean, that is a treasure trove of information. We are saying this is what we buy. We make connections then with New York State Ag and Markets, with regional agriculture and economic development actors from all over the region to find ways that we can support more the flow of regional product coming into the city. So people get a sense, this is what we buy. If we want to get into a contract around that, here's what we need to produce. And then, as you'll hear others say as well, really working with MOX and DCAS, not just around expos and things like that to attract new vendors to the city, but getting it clear and pushed out when we have contracts coming down the pike. I will say, for instance, the most recent HRA procurement had an unprecedented number of responses. That's fantastic. And so making sure, we also really worked to make sure that we got that solicitation out there. So that's just one example of the kinds of things that we want to do to make sure that people know the scopes, the timeline, the kinds of things that we want coming into the city. And then finally, as I've said a number of times and we'll keep saying, we are committed to transparency and accountability around this. So we're annually producing these reports and posting them on the MOFP website. And in the fall, we'll have our next tranche of data release.
That's great, thank you. And I'd just like to acknowledge Councilmember Aviles, who has joined us. So hearing about all of this community engagement and strategy around it, how does the office work in, if at all, work in food justice communities? For example, communities that have inequitable access to healthy food, often low-income communities and communities of color.
Yeah. Such an important question, and I'm really happy to respond to it. We're very proud of the community engagement work that we've done as part of, particularly to start, I would say, through the city's 10-year food policy plan. We engaged with more than 300 stakeholders, community groups, food vendors, food workers, advocates, to develop the plan that set a strategic framework in place for good food purchasing. We really look forward to doing that now also in a much more, that was very intentional, but sustainable way in a post-pandemic way. Trying to engage in a meaningful way through Zooms was just very challenging, and that is something that, particularly as we share information out, we want to be able to hear from stakeholders back if this is working or not. So we're very committed to that.
Great. And would you see Intro 517 as a codification of Executive Order 8? And if so, does that mean there's support for it?
You know, this administration shares the Speaker and Council's commitment to the goals, values, and transparency of good food purchasing, and we look forward to discussing potential legislative paths in the future.
Great, thank you. I look forward to it too. So could you give us an overview of how food procurement for the city agencies work right now? Does every individual agency have its own food procurement strategy? Are there coordinated efforts within MOFP to standardize some of those?
As I mentioned in the testimony, this is quite obviously there's lots of different city agencies, and each of them are buying different things. I'll use a recent example, which is working with DSS and their food distribution procurement. Agency decides what it needs to procure, develops a scope of work, develops an RFP of sorts, and puts that out. Typically, there could be anywhere from several weeks to respond to that. Things are reviewed, and then we go through contract negotiations. The process truly does take a number of months. My colleagues from MOX and certainly DCAS can also speak to a little bit about that process. But every agency also, procurements are run through their agency chief contracting office. What EO8 does is require, and again, I think just in these few short months, 4 months or so, there have been a number of moments, whether it was the recent awareness of different consolidations in food distributors, where now MOFP gets a lot of calls, and so people know that food contracts are something that we need to make sure MOFP has eyes on, and also this is a shared partnership with ACO offices.
Great. I just have a couple more questions before I pass it on to my colleagues. In terms of Intro 517, in your view, are there any large challenges that the city is facing in procuring fresh, healthy, ethically sourced foods? And in conjunction with that, have the city agencies looked at considering some of our local food markets, like the Hunts Point Produce Terminal? I feel like I've been there quite a few times recently with the mayor as a consultant or advisor on some of the food purchasing.
Yeah. I've also been, especially to the groundbreaking and now building out of the Grow NYC wholesale market too, which is a great opportunity for the city. I'm happy to follow up with you and the law department to discuss the specific mechanics of some of the contracting work. But I will just underscore again that agencies, and particularly under Mayor Adams, we are looking for the best quality produce and plant forward, meals as much as possible. There was a second part to your question, which was about Hunts Point in particular.
Yeah.
I'll just say we're sharing whenever we have a need and a solicitation. We're trying to get that out far and wide, and also with the support of MOX, making sure it's very clear that we have the specs for the items and everything else included. Sending out publishing that raw data of agencies and what they're buying was so well received by our regional partners. And some of them I do know now are looking at ways that they can aggregate to be able to respond to the scale and enormity of city food contracts.
Yeah, I ask particularly because we do have folks like in the Hunts Point Terminal Market that are doing this day in and day out, have been doing it for 50 plus years, understand how to get costs so low because they're buying by bulk or at such large quantities, and have the inner workings of working with all of these different either individual buyers or potentially with our agencies. And they might be the ones to have best practices when looking at how the city agencies could replicate food purchasing. But thank you for that. I will hold off on the rest of my questions and pass it over to my colleagues.
Thank you, Chair Farias. Good afternoon. You know, we gotta keep it lively over here. It's good to see you all. My first question is, which agencies have contracts that are subject to Local 50? Are you able to provide a breakdown of the food budget for each agency?
Thank you, Chair Wan, for the question. Here at MOX, one of our strategic initiatives is transparency into the process as a whole. And so we are working on having more and more adaptation or adoption of Passport by the mayoral agencies as they do contracts and in terms of awarding them and also going forward. A future state will be we're going to have a lot more functionality in Passport. And also would love to plug that MOX has released Passport Public, which also has a lot of information out there. With the specifics of Local Law 50 and the data that's captured around there, I would love to open it up to my co-panelists who have a lot more information.
Yeah, I don't think we have that specific data available right now, but we could definitely follow up with it.
Okay. Okay, we'll look out for that. And I want to acknowledge Councilmember Velasquez and Councilmember Yeager for joining us as well. My next question is for Local Law 50, which requires MOX to establish guidelines to help agencies purchase New York State food products. Does MOX conduct trainings for these guidelines? If so, how often, and how many agencies typically participate in the training?
Again, I'd love to, working with our city agencies is of extreme importance to us, and in particular on the Local Law 50 and training and compliance. I'd love to turn it over to my co-panelists for some more specifics.
I think the training is kind of always available on our website. So or not our website.
Okay, so it's a static training that's reviewable at their own time.
A static
So is it
like
a video
slides.
of
Yeah.
recording?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a PowerPoint.
And I think we do in person too. Annie, you can correct me.
Okay, got it. Is the 10% price preference permitted under state law sufficient? And should we be asking the state for even greater flexibility?
Yes. I think what we'll say is that we're open to engaging a wide variety of tools to pull the right levers to make sure that city food purchasing is in line with what our co-panelist Kate McKenzie just testified about and what she spoke about in the Q&A. So we're certainly open to having those conversations. It would require some conversations with our city's law department on increasing that 10%, but I think there's certainly opportunity to do more. We'd welcome those conversations.
Do all food-related solicitations released by city agencies include a price preference for locally sourced food? If not, why not?
You want to take that one? Yeah.
Hi, thank you for the question. My name is Adam Buchanan. I'm the Acting Deputy Commissioner for Citywide Procurement at DCAS. So I can just speak on behalf of DCAS, who does food purchasing for ACS and Department of Correction, that all of our solicitations are either requiring New York sourcing or including the 10% price preference.
Okay. Next is about, as discussed at the previous hearing, MOX has faced challenges in collecting survey data from vendors for Local Law 50 report. 25% response rate in 2020, though down to 5.7 in the previous year in 2021. Can you help me understand what you're doing now to drive up the response numbers to get more surveys out of the vendors, since it's only encouraged?
Thank you, Chair Wan, for the question. We have honed in on the survey and the response to the survey, and we've been in discussions with Co-Chair Brewer, and we are open to any suggestions on increasing compliance with it, including taking advantage of maybe having team members from all the council members engage with the vendors on the survey. And I will say that the numbers that you pulled We're looking at the prior fiscal year and the prior fiscal year before that. And during that time, we were all in the state of the pandemic, and so we'll have some strangeness when we look at the numbers because we did so much emergency food procurement during those months for those fiscal years.
So could you just clarify again, what are you doing moving forward to encourage a higher response rate?
So we're actively in conversations with Chair Brewer's office, and we're also looking to work with our city agencies, and we're also thinking about what outreach is appropriate with our vendors.
Okay, we will be following up to see what concrete plan you have to make sure that the responses are increasing other than conversations.
We would welcome that.
And then from the small subset of data you collected, you just mentioned how the previous, these last 2 years were peculiar due to the pandemic. Could you talk about the 2 years separately and then the prior years to what kind of trends you have been seeing in the small subset of data that you are getting response from?
That I think we would have to maybe engage with your office offline to like have a really robust, detailed conversation and a meaningful one.
Got it. Okay, we will definitely do that. And what kind of quality assurance do agencies conduct to ensure the accuracy of food source information is provided by the vendors?
That I may welcome some input from my co-panelists, but also maybe thinking about that an offline conversation may be worthwhile on that point also.
Thank you for that question. Quite honestly, we're looking for just a submission. I think also, we're doing a very parallel approach with getting a lot of the same information from our larger vendors, and we haven't been in the place to sort of question the validity or accuracy. We just want some of the boxes filled in. And then we can begin to think about what raises questions. And in our work with the Center for Good Food Purchasing, that maintains a massive national database on a particular type of product that we're building into that too. So if it is an example might be a frozen potato product, right? We want to know literally the farm that potato was grown on, where was it cut into strips, and then where was it bagged. That is the level of transparency that we want from our food companies. And so we're looking to build that and also then test that again with the database that the Center for Good Food Purchasing manages.
So am I understanding correctly, right now you just want to get them to check off boxes, and after you're able to get that response, then you can move towards quality assurance?
To be clear, we're not looking to check the boxes. We're looking for vendors to submit data, and once they submit, we go a more thorough scrub into that. We have no reason to believe that any of the data that is submitted is inaccurate, and we will continue to monitor that.
Now in 2022, we have blockchain technology, which allows you to track an avocado from a tree of a farm to exactly which cafeteria it is served in. So is blockchain technology part of what you are looking at for the auditing of your food sources?
It is absolutely something that we would love to consider.
Got it. It is very clear to me that all of my colleagues have come here because we're hearing from senior centers to correctional facilities to schools to nursing homes about the quality of food that they're being served. How are you collecting feedback from consumers themselves who consume this food, if at all, and what is your plan going forward? Because we're hearing a lot about getting feedback from this or data from the contractors themselves, the vendors. But what about the people who have to consume this food? What are you doing to collect feedback from them?
So all feedback, especially feedback where there's areas to improve, we welcome. And I can speak on behalf of all of the agencies that are also serving food to vulnerable New Yorkers as well. What I can also say is that now there is a requirement in the food standards of 2022 that all agencies must solicit feedback, and they must report on that feedback and show how they're responding to that. So that is one notable step of actually requiring that agencies create a feedback loop of data collection and then process improvement. So again, we take all feedback, whether it is positive or areas for opportunities for growth, very seriously.
So where are you collecting the feedback? Are you requiring them to submit it to 311, or are you requiring the vendors to solicit feedback on their own and they're supposed to submit it to you? Where is the feedback supposed to go?
So these food standards were just passed in April of 2022, and agencies have until July of next year to develop their plan. That is one of many standards that they're completing. So agencies are creating those plans to collect data and many other things, getting their vendors to adhere to the new standards, so that by July of 2023, we're able to begin that process. But I can speak, I don't want to speak for, but I do know that the Department of Education also takes this very seriously, as in the process of community engagement, specifically with parents and students themselves. And I would defer all other questions that are agency-specific to those specific agencies.
I think it's really important that we have a centralized process that all of the feedback for all of the agencies are being brought back to MOCS, because it's very clear through our hearings on Passport that all of these agencies are doing all kinds of things on their own, and there is not a centralized process. Therefore, the data is running off the walls. So I hope that for 2023, there is a centralized process, whether it be 311 or wherever it is, that we are allowing the feedback to be collected singularly so that we can analyze the data and figure out what the recommendations are to make sure that we have high quality food assurance. And I believe Councilmember Frias had a follow-up question as well.
Just along those lines, as someone who's worked in the nonprofit sector before, when you're not given individualized standards of like what needs to be asked and how it needs to be collected, and then how that aggregated information goes back to the central hub, you can end up having all the agencies asking a bunch of different questions where we can't actually evaluate that data and make really good assumptions or next steps from them. So I mean, in the same breath, like, I urge you folks to consider coming up with at least a basis of questions that are necessary to be asked, how frequently they're going to, like, set a schedule, and where they need to be centralized within like your side of the admin, just so we can actually be able to have good data sets that look the same. And if other folks want to have additional questions that can help us with certain populations like youth or seniors, etc., that's always helpful for those subsets. But not having a standardized process or standardized set of questions is not helpful to us. It feels like in a year we'll be asking the same questions.
As we mentioned earlier, all of us as council members, we're hearing feedback from students, seniors, immigrant communities, CBOs about the quality of the food that they're being distributed. And for the food quality assurance and even the quantity of the food distributed, a second grader should not be receiving the same quantity of food as a fifth grader in a school. So for the quantity that is distributed, whether it's in a nursing home or in a different location through these agencies, what is the protocol on how much the quantity that each vendor is required to distribute through all of these agencies?
Thank you for that question. I do know that each agency, as I mentioned, through whether they're procuring different food types or meals, specifically within the Department of Education, even for the Department for the Aging, there are specific federally or state mandated requirements around that, and I'd be happy to convene the agencies to be able to speak more to that with regard to what the specific serving sizes are, and anything else related to the agencies and what meals they are providing.
I know that we each have many complaints from our constituents about all these different agencies and the quality of food as well as the quantity of food. So when a food vendor fails to fulfill its contractual obligations and breaches the contract, what is the accountability? Can you walk us through the process when there's a complaint, for example, of a rotten food or food that should not have been served? What is the process for accountability?
I'm not, I don't manage food contracts, but I believe that I would defer that to an agency who's actually in the business of managing that contract.
Hi, so regarding quality assurance, DCAS, and I'm just speaking for the specific contracts that DCAS manages, mostly for ACS and DOC. We have what's called the Bureau of Quality Assurance. So what they do is they ensure that all the food that's being delivered by the vendor is meeting the specifications that are contained in the contract. And if certain items are failing to meet those standards, there can be deductions. The food can be returned to the vendor, and we can require a replacement. And if the vendor is kind of a habitual offender, then we would, start thinking about corrective action plans or, potential breach of contract and moving on to the next vendor on the list. So there are various contractual remedies available to us depending on the nature of the infraction that we're talking about.
Got it. So just so that I'm understanding, you're saying that the Bureau of Food Quality
Assurance, yes.
Quality assurance is what oversees every single agency for quality assurance?
For things that DCAS buys. So this is a bureau that lives within DCAS.
So then does each agency keep accountability for themselves then?
We do accountability for the agencies that we buy for, which is ACS and DOC. I can't speak to the other agencies.
Got it. How, if at all, do city agencies work with nonprofit vendors to help them identify New York State food procurements that are available?
Could you repeat the question?
How, if at all, do city agencies work with nonprofit vendors to help them identify the New York State food products that are available?
I think I don't know how to respond to that question.
Do you want to explain? I know how to. Okay. Okay, I will pass it over to Councilmember Gail Brewer.
What is being asked is, even with the DFTA, for instance, you got all the nonprofits that, from Project Find to whomever, purchasing locally, individually. So how can the city agencies work with them, in my hope, to buy local?
Got it. So, and this is where I see the two streams of Local Law 50 and our Good Food Purchasing work meeting, which is we're supporting, again, agencies to help. We need more data. We need more and better data. And human service contracts represent upwards of 40% of all of the food that the city buys. And so supporting those human service contracts, those nonprofits, with all different kinds of things, and especially making sure that they, for instance, I know that the Grow NYC wholesale market serves 90% of their businesses with nonprofits, which is fantastic. But also how we can, either encourage more businesses to utilize organizations such as that have good traceability to where their food is coming from, their fresh product. But also, again, as my colleagues have said, we are happily willing and able to talk and find some of those ways that can support human service contractors in a way that gets them even better food.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge Councilmember Krishnan, who has also joined us, and I will pass it over to Councilmember Chair Brewer to continue the next line of questioning.
Thank you very much. I just want to start by understanding who buys food for which agencies. Because DCAS, correction, which should be easy, it's got Rikers and the Barge, right? Is there someplace else you buy food for? Rikers and the Barge.
I don't have a full list of locations for DOC, but we could get that.
I'd like to know that.
Sure.
And then within DCAS also, when you say ACS, but don't you also do the shelters, or you don't? Who buys foods for the shelters?
No.
So who?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find who in hell's name buys food for these agencies. It's very confusing to the outside world. Go ahead.
DSS, within the DSS umbrella, DHS has their own procurements.
Okay.
And this is a change. For HRA used to procure their food through DCAS. It is now, this new procurement that should be executed imminently is independent. It is not through the city.
Okay, so hold on. So DSS, I call DSS and HRA the same thing, but it's not, is what you're saying. Okay. So it's DSS does their own procurement.
Correct.
Jesus Christ. And HRA, what did you just say that they do?
Formerly, they were with DCAS. They are now executing a contract with a private distributor to procure, store, and distribute food to the pantries across the city.
Okay, for the pantries. All right. And then, so you're only doing ACS, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, and you do that, so each childcare center doesn't do it on their own, they all do it through you?
They're doing it through the centralized contracts, yes.
Okay, and then DIFTA, you also ostensibly do, even though everybody does it on their own?
We don't handle DIFTA's food procurement.
You don't do DIFTA?
Do not.
This is a mess. Each one does it on their own. This is a friggin' mess. Okay, and so DOE, also, you don't do DOE. I understand that. You talk to DOE, but you don't do DOE. So who else has food? Am I missing? The health and hospitals you don't do.
Yeah.
Who else has food?
The agencies that procure food include Health and Hospitals, the Department of Education, the two agencies through DCAS,
Yeah.
DSS, DIFTA, the Department of Health, and DYCD.
Okay, so DYCD for the youth programs?
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody do scratch cooking except for some of the senior centers, or is everybody else doing? The correction kitchen is closed. I was just there personally. It sucks. Excuse my French.
So when it's in operation, DOC Kitchen does scratch cooking. We know that there are a number of schools, and increasingly,
very few.
We'll get there. Certainly, some of those, certainly the senior center, the older adult centers,
Right, some.
and that is the majority of meals prepared on site.
Okay, so can we get a list, first of all, just like an organizational chart as to who's buying from whom or something, so we have some sense of this? And then I assume for the ACS, for instance, that's not scratch cooking, that's all delivered, right, to the child care centers? What kind of food does ACS partake in with their centers, just as DCAS is doing that purchasing?
So I think we would just have to defer to ACS on what they're
Okay.
doing at each specific center.
But you can get us this information, so we have an organizational
Absolutely.
chart. You know, for instance, DSS purchasing for the shelters, I assume that's what they do, that's all delivered. There's no scratch cooking in any shelter whatsoever. And I hate that because you never smell the food, and that's actually a mental health issue, not to be able to smell cooking. So I can have a whole conversation about that. All right, so that would be helpful, just to know who's doing what, because it does add up to a lot, particularly with DOE. So then during the summer, DYCD will be purchasing more for summer camps and so on, or you'll get us a list of all the purchasing that they do and for what?
For sure.
Okay. And the health department does it for, who are they purchasing for? For the food pantries or not? No.
Actually, no, a lot of the mental health providers, there's food provision, a small scale, but still food
Okay,
provision.
but it's
done.
something, okay. All right, the reason I ask, one of the issues that, you know, we're all trying, when you go to correction, the only thing fresh there is a banana that's unripe. I tried to open it, you couldn't even open the skin. The apples and the oranges, and every single, I knew literally almost every detainee there, just for some reason, and they all need fresh fruits and vegetables. So maybe we could even have Grow NYC at Rikers. Something has to give at Rikers. You don't have to go from place to place. You got 8 institutions, but it's one island. So please, let's figure this out. On the state level, as we know, because I happen to like Commissioner Ball, head of Ag, so he realized that the onion was, under the RFP, it was a California onion, as you know. We simply switched the RFP to a New York onion, and guess what? We're buying New York onions for the jails. So we should be able to do the same thing here, for God's sake. Yes, you
So
know
I-
my onion story, but I could give it over and over again. So the
quite-
issue, even for Rikers, are we buying local onions, or are they coming from California?
So I am happy to report that out of the 534 individual items that DCAS carries, currently we have 152 coming from New York sourcing, including onions, carrots, cucumbers, apples, potatoes, celery, ground beef, various breads, various flours, and various kosher and halal meals. So about 30% of DCAS's entire portfolio is now coming from New York State. And if you take out shelf-stable items, which are hard to source in New York, we're up to 44%. So really, obviously, a lot of work to do. but we're happy, you know, I mean, 50% of the fresh produce that DCAS is procuring is coming from New York State. 61% of the bread and baking products is coming from New York State. So we've really, and thanks to that meeting that we had pre-pandemic, it would have been nice to meet more recently, but with your office back when you were in Manhattan Borough President, that was really eye-opening for us, and we've really tried to move the needle quite a bit since then.
Okay, I mean, I appreciate that. When you go to Rikers, you do not see any of these products on the lunch platter. So there's just lots of work, not to be discussed today, but we've got to figure this out. And I think one of your issues is that when you talk to the vendors, and the vendors are challenging, the distributors are challenging, but they don't know necessarily, you know, what is local, unless there's some way of getting that information. We need to have very granular information. I know we talked about it earlier, but have you been able to get, if it's Grow NYC, obviously they will give you that information. But for these vendors, or like the big ones like Cisco and others, I don't think they give you the information that is local or not. Or how do we get that so that we know? I mean, you talked about it earlier, but could you be more specific?
Yeah. So for the past 3 years, it has been optional, and we now, through EO8, are requiring, I don't have the specific template, a form at this moment of contract signing and negotiations to say, these are the things that you're going to be able to report on us every year. Is that correct? And, you know, we are working through our first moment here, but so far so good, where you give them the upfront notice of, you know, we need to know where this stuff is coming from, and we need to know all of the moments where it was processed, et cetera. So being really clear and requiring it is the tool that we now have, and I have every reason to believe we'll be able to get there.
All right, so right now, as we speak, if Cisco or Baldor or somebody is your distributor, they're going to tell you that the potatoes come from Ulster County or whatever farm. Is that how it's supposed to work?
Correct. So if you, all of the data that is currently on the MOFP website, and you see the raw data, you can see, you know, where there's holes, but also where a specific distributor says, this is where my corn, my apple, my cabbage, whatever it is, came from. And that's the supply chain transparency that we're aiming for.
Okay, now when we tour, as you know, I've taken people upstate 3 times, 4 times. Anybody wants to go? Cornell's willing to do it again, because sometimes people have never been upstate and talked to farmers. You have, but other agencies have not. So the question is, in order to be the New York, make this up, celery, lettuce, whatever, they need a year in advance to plan. You cannot grow lettuce in 2 minutes. So what are we doing to work with the upstate farmers? Because they, unless you tell them, DCAS is going to buy for correction, I'm making this up, the celery, the onions, they're not going to be ready. So how are we working with the farmers to say, I mean, and in the past, I was always told, oh, we can't promise this scale, we can't promise. Well, you got to promise the farmers. So how are we going to make sure that they have enough onions, et cetera, to be able to supply the city of New York in the way that we want? How is that going to work?
So thank you for that question. There are a few steps I'd like to point to. I keep going back to the posting of that raw data, which was, you know, who looked at it most? Local farmers, right? Because they want to see what are the things that we're buying. And then if I'm a farmer that can satisfy 25% of it, how can I find another farmer? And then we know that there are aggregation hubs and even more in the pipeline to be built across the state. So signaling with what we're buying is one effort, but also, again, this regional food working group where we're also identifying federal and state opportunities to have those aggregation hubs developed. I mentioned sharing, like getting not just what agencies are procuring what, but the public version of that is also, and when are they going to make their solicitations, right? So that we know DOE in fiscal 23 has a big moment out there. We want to start, you know, signaling that, you know, these are the things that we want to be buying. So we're working both with the supply chain to be able to say, you know, signal this is what we want, and also showing people what it is that we're buying. So there's just, you know, a few of the ways we're, you know, Commissioner Ball spent a whole day up at Gracie last week for our convening that we had. We have a fantastic relationship now with Ag and Markets. And again, whether it is through the Nourish
Carrot
program,
farmer.
yes, and a remarkable commissioner.
Yeah.
And so just trying to make sure that we are signaling where our demand is so that people can either work with distributors or direct in the ways that are possible.
Okay. I could talk about this forever. Now, how are we going to deal with, DOE has their own procurement, Health and Hospitals has their own procurement. How do we work with them? I guess a separate hearing to figure this out? Because with all due respect, the kids aren't going to eat Mayor Adams's plant-based, I won't eat it either, unless it has fresh ingredients, right? And so I have to say, so far, they're not too fresh. So what are we going to do with DOE and Health and Hospitals? And then go ahead.
Well, what I will say is that DOE and H&H, while non-mayoral agencies, are the longest, most historic partners with the city in good food purchasing. And so whether that's H&H and through their specific vendors, they're committed and making great strides around good food purchasing.
I don't know, but the locally, there's not only the Mayor Adams plant-based whatever, but there's also supposed to be locally based, I think it's Thursday or Mondays, I can never
Thursdays.
remember. Meatless Mondays, Thursday, Sunday, Friday, something. The only thing locally based recently were the Jamaican meat patties. That was nice, but there wasn't a lot else locally based. So I'm not saying, and I love meat patties, and I love them from Brooklyn, but I want my farmers upstate also to be part of locally sourced food. So to be honest with you, that was it last Thursday, just so you know. There was nothing else. And so I appreciate that there is this effort. One other question I have is, how are we going to deal, if at all, to improve scratch-based cooking? It's more expensive, it's this and that, but it is something that we need to do. So it's not a correction. Very few schools, more senior citizens would like to do it. So what are we doing on the issue? Because when you do scratch-based, you're also more likely to have more locally based, locally sourced. So what about scratch-based?
We share your interest, your commitments around that, and also as an administration are working on the long-term vision and operational plans to be able to get there, not just, as you mentioned, within DOE, but also, across other agencies as well. This is about also connecting the food provision to education, and what better way than through cooking.
Okay, so I hope that when you get us a listing and the org chart, you'll also include, although it's probably on the dashboard, it's the controller's dashboard that you're talking about, I assume, when you talk about your dashboard.
We have an independent one through MOFP that looks at all of the data available for fiscal 19 in the fall. 20 and 21 will be uploaded. That looks at a city, but then also by agency across anything from dairy to fruits and vegetables, tubers, ruminant meats, grains. So you can actually see what each agency is buying, and then another layer to that is the carbon equivalence of that food. So that's a very different and distinct from the comptrollers, but our visualization of what we're buying.
Okay. Well, other issue, of course, involving EDC, and this is, again, 20 years of discussion, but what are some other impediments to buying locally? I understood the friggin' lettuce washing machine and the apple cutters and blah, blah, blah. Are there other issues that EDC should be working on to purchase locally that are infrastructure related?
I would welcome that conversation with EDC.
Okay, because there's a lot. There's a long list. Okay, I'm done for now. I could go on. Thank you very much. Let's go to the other members.
Thank you so much. I just have one question before I move to member questions. It's regarding the survey, and I'm just asking this to ask this. Do we think mandating the survey in any capacity with some level of enforcement or penalty would encourage participation and or hurt contracts?
I would love to have that conversation with DOHMH, who is the agency responsible for making the food standards really happen. I know they put a lot of thought into that and would welcome that conversation.
Okay, great, thank you. And with our first member, oh, sorry about that. I'd like to kick it over to Council Member and Chair Juan.
We're going to shift focus just for a little bit, for a few minutes, for the Intro 136 on language access. For Local Law 30 of 2017 requires the city to publish 10 citywide designated languages based on a specific formula using census and DOE enrollment data. How often does the mayor's office assess which languages are the 10 citywide designated languages?
Chair Wan, thank you for that question. I would have to defer to the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs on that, but we're happy to make the connection offline because it is a very, very important topic. And yes, the 10 identified languages is just a subset of the many, many languages spoken in New York.
Could you describe how the mayor's office tests emergency messaging and what role MOX has in contracting outside vendors for that?
I'm sorry, Chair Wan, I missed the first part of the question.
Could you describe how the mayor's office tests emergency messaging? So for example, during Hurricane Ida, when all of our phones get the emergency message saying that there is a hurricane on the way, and the role that MOX has in contracting outside vendors for that.
I think we'd have to defer that conversation to NISM, but we would play our standard role in overseeing the procurement process and facilitating it for those contracts.
Got it. Please describe how the mayor's office targets remote outreach through digital platforms using LAP populations and ethnic media. Do all the agencies use these methods?
I think we might need Office of Community and Ethnic Media for that one. But yeah, happy to continue that conversation.
So you're saying that the mayor's office of media does all the outreach planning for emergencies as well as?
I think I missed the first part of the previous question.
If you could describe how the mayor's office targets remote outreach through digital platforms used by LAP populations and ethnic media.
I think we might need NISM for that one as well.
Okay. And what guidance has the mayor's office disseminated to agencies regarding language assistance provisions for populations with lower rates of literacy in their native language? So for example, right, I'm just trying to make it easier to humanize it. Someone who, for example, my grandmother, she's Korean, but she grew up in Japan because of the Japanese occupation. She never learned to read and write Korean, but she can speak it fluently. So for folks like that who may understand the language colloquially but cannot read and write, what is the mayor's office's plan for that?
Chair Wan, thank you for these questions. They're very important, and we are committed to equity and inclusion and connecting New Yorkers with the services that they're looking for in their spoken language and in providing written materials in their preferred language. But here at MOX, we are focused on making it easiest to do business with the city. So that is sort of the perspective of our organization. Some of these questions about connecting the New Yorkers to emergency services and things like that, we're happy to take this engagement and open it up to our fellow partners at the mayor's office who are more specialized in some of these topics.
Okay, so I'm going to forward most of these questions to you because it's clear a lot of these questions you will have to defer to other parts of the mayor's office. I did have questions for the advocates. Should I ask them now or do you want me to? Okay. Okay, thank you. I'll turn it back to Chair Farias.
Thank you so much. And so just a reminder to my colleagues, we will have a 5-minute clock that we will try to stick to. And the first member up for questions is Councilmember Nurse.
It's always nice when you're at the top of the list. Okay, thank you all, and thank you, chairs. I just have 3 questions. One, Executive Director Kate, you mentioned in your testimony the need for programmatic opportunities for agencies to learn and exchange in order to advance this initiative. So to share their experiences. Can you just share a little bit more about that? And just mindful, I only have like 4 minutes left.
Yeah, no problem. So the people that we meet with weekly are the program staff, right? The people, it could be a person from ACS who's actually developing the menu. She's not developing the contracts necessarily, but she maybe heard from health and hospitals about a great tactic that they had. This is a real example, right? About labeling or calling something different on the menu to solicit greater participation. Nobody likes to choose something that's called like the vegetarian chili, but the 3 being like, you know, something was really good. So they're exchanging ideas like that that can help elicit participation in a different way, or specific collateral that gets sent out. What resonates with families or different people. Those are the kinds of like programmatic changes. We brought in the Better Health Foundation to be able to talk about like placement of like if you're gonna put a product at, you know, eye level versus down, you know, lower. Things like that that help all of our agency programmatic staff serve their meals better.
Okay, thank you. And then some of my next question is really more based on resiliency and kind of, I love the Cool Food Pledge, but maybe you could share kind of what additional in-city infrastructure can really support achieving the good food purchasing goals. You know, you mentioned like farms at NYCHA. I helped build out a couple of those farms, but those aren't going to achieve scale, right? Those are educational opportunities for people to see and be like, oh, this is amazing. But, you know, when we're talking about scaling up for some of the things that can be produced quite quickly, like leafy greens and things, how can, you know, what can we do or advocate for to help achieve some of that?
This is one of the reasons why we committed to producing the Food Forward 10-year food policy plans while we were still in the pandemic, because so many of the lessons from that, you know, particularly from a resiliency perspective, we didn't want to be missed. Mm-hmm. So something that I know is, again, sort of related to procurement, is always having a second item in a procurement that's like acceptable, right? So if we can't get this item, we're going to go for that, and it's already achieved. So from a procurement place, there's some little lessons like that that are really valuable. But I would say also our new program called Groceries to Go, which is still in a pilot phase. But this now allows us to work with small businesses, particularly small grocers, to be able to get people meals anytime that they need it. We were not able to do that during the pandemic. We worked with very, very large vendors to do home-delivered meals, essentially. And now we have a mechanism that NYSEM can activate in an emergency to make sure, or, you know, weather-related or otherwise, that will enable us to restore and support small businesses. So those are just 2, but goal 4 of the 10-year food policy plan is specifically about sustainability and resilience. And I would love to continue that conversation with you.
No, and I mean, I guess I'm curious if you know offhand, you know, the percentage of contracts that are for locally produced, like in-city produced food.
Yeah, well, again, a deep learning from the pandemic is that we do not, in this city, produce a lot of food.
Right.
We know we need more opportunities for businesses and manufacturing of food in the city, and that again means a conversation with our partners at planning.
You have a percentage,
EDC.
maybe just to understand the baseline we're at, or if the chairs, can I request that be a part of the follow-up, just to get an assessment?
We can, let's do it. I would rather get you a real number rather than something.
Okay,
that's not
that would
real.
be helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Nurse. Next up for questions is Councilmember Lee.
Sorry, I don't know the order anymore because we're not on Zoom. We said this. I may go over 5 minutes. I'm sorry, but I'll try to stick to 5 minutes. So thanks so much for being here. As a former nonprofit executive and DFDA Senior Center, Homebound Meals on Wheels runner, and after-school program, all that stuff. So I love talking about food access, and contracting and procurements. And so I just had a bunch of thoughts that were going through my head. And just on background too, I know that for DFDA, I can't speak for other agencies, but for DFDA, you know, they actually had a nutritionist that worked very closely with us that even went through the different ounces of how much food we're supposed to provide. if we didn't meet those standards, like they even inspected the kitchens and observed all the fruit flies. And then if we didn't have our ducks in a row, there's always a CAP, corrective action plan that you need to do. If you don't do that, it goes in Vendex, which is, granted the audits happen years later, but then, you get a negative ding in the Vendex system, which is not what you want, because then that sort of lowers your score in the system. So I think there are checks and balances there in terms of Passport, which is leaps and bounds what HSS and all those other things were. But having said that, I think to echo some of my colleagues' points is that that's DFTA, but then as an agency like ours that I used to run that has multiple city agency contracts, I think the information is there in Passport. It's not that it's not there because we're required to dump all that information there. I think the issue becomes when, I think the challenge, I should say, is that the city agencies require different things depending on which contracts you have, and so the reporting does not look the same. And so we're not necessarily comparing apples to apples, so to speak. And so I think that's where the challenge becomes. And so I'm just wondering, is it ultimately MOX that has to oversee that process in conjunction with the city agencies, or how do we help to make that sort of process and system more consistent? Or, because I understand that obviously different programs require different things, but at the same time, how do we make the database more centralized and easily accessible?
Thank you, Councilmember Lee. It's very helpful to have your background and the context to understand the question with which you're asking. And MOX, in partnership with MOFP, I think we are shared on the front that we want to make it easier for our human service providers to do business with the city, and really cutting through the bureaucracy and trying to standardize and streamline reporting requirements is something that's very high on our strategic initiatives. But to echo what my MOFP co-panelist is saying, different agencies have different needs and they serve different populations, so there will be some differences. But it's I think we share the load, and we're in partnership.
Yeah, and I guess on our side as council members, so that we can go into the database and easily check that. Because I know for one agency it could be this, but then how do we make sure that we're holding all the other agencies accountable? So is it through that sort of audit Vendex CAP system, or how do you guys ensure that there's accountability there across the board, I would say?
I certainly think that that's one of the tools.
Okay. The other question I had, and thank you for your comment about the ACOs, because I think the challenge half the time is that there's a policy, but then the ACOs don't always know what's going on, and so they're telling us one thing even though we know that the policy is something else, and so that can be challenging, so it's good that you guys are doing that. And I guess my question, sort of flipping it a little bit, is going to DOE, and I don't know if this is something that you guys can speak to, but one of the things I've been hearing a lot from the principals and the school teachers and the PTA presidents is that there's such an incredible amount of food waste that's happening, and so is there a way to use the contracting process to include something with the food vendors so that they have some direction of what to do with that food waste? Because what ends up happening is they just throw it away. So given how many meals we serve in the school system, I'm wondering what can be done about that?
Thank you for raising that concern. And I recall at a hearing read maybe a week or two ago with DOE, Chris Tricarico highlighted some new initiatives that they would be rolling out in the coming weeks and months. And so I would defer to the DOE plans around that. But thank you for raising it.
Okay, awesome. And then also, I don't know, again, if this is MOX or DOE or MOFP, but, for example, the cultural food sensitivity thing is something that I think is super, super important. And even including in my district, we have the second largest Asian population in the city. And so I'm just wondering, when it comes to the contracting, and this is something that we've been really wanting to see for years, and I don't know if it's been implemented across different city agencies, but similar to MWBEs and how you get awarded certain higher points, perhaps if you get, if you're an MWBE organization, can we add something like if you serve certain populations, and include that in the contracting RFP process, where if you serve certain populations with that cultural sensitivity and background, if you're able to achieve that, you get a certain higher score, or it's weighted differently or something. I don't know if there's a way to do that in MOCs or across the agencies?
What I would say is that absolutely, and again, incredible learning from the COVID pandemic about what food types and cultures and preferences are truly needed across this city. And this administration Mayor Adams feels incredibly strongly about this. And so again, going for all new contracts, they are being, examined to make sure that the appropriate language and commitments then from vendors and capacities are included.
Okay. And I think that sort of concerned me because I know that at the last hearing when I was asking a question to DOE, they only have 3 vendors across all the schools, and the contract ends, I believe, in 2024. So I'm just wanting to see if we can prepare for that now in
100% agree.
Okay. And then also, I know that for the New York State cells and Grow NYC, there are certain vegetables and fresh produce that are available, but again, when you're talking about populations that have specific food needs, a lot of the vegetables and fresh produce are not there. And so I think you alluded to it before, but I just wanted to confirm. So you guys are open to using local supermarkets, vendors, and how did they get into the system to be able to participate?
That is the Groceries to Go program is separate and distinct. I believe that it's again going to be operated through the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and I'll defer to them on the specific eligibility for that pilot program. But I will say again, with a nod to what I just mentioned around different types of foods, cultural, ethnic, specialty items, that gets acknowledged in contracts going forward.
Okay. I'll stop. Sorry. Because I went over my time. I'm sorry. Oh, no. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Next up is Councilmember Williams.
Oh, here.
Is Council, you want to go? You need to leave?
No.
Okay. I'll be fast. Hi. My question is about food desert communities. So, we know that roughly 1 million of our residents are considered food insecure. I definitely have parts of my district that can be considered food deserts. So just wanted to know how your office works with these communities. Of course, the council has done a lot of work prior to me being in the council, and I know this council also continues to do that work. So just wanted to know what your office's role is.
Thank you for that. And I really, again, want to extend deep appreciation to the council for the additional $30 million to our, I'm not calling it EFAP because it's going to have a new name, the former Emergency Food Assistance Program. And, we, through MOFP in partnership with DSS and the Office of Economic Opportunity, are looking at where there's gaps in not just food pantries, but also where there's need for more emergency food. And it might be in a district that doesn't have a lot of food pantries. And so thinking about how we're able to support mobile distributions going into those communities, that's one acknowledgement there about making sure that coming off of the gravity and frankly, the extraordinary amounts of food that were available throughout the city during the COVID pandemic, to make sure that we're also supporting not just the free food distributions, but also acknowledging and paying attention that to the, getting, summer food service starts tomorrow. That is a free meal for any kid under the age of 18, right? Making sure that our benefits access programs are reaching these areas and prioritizing those, particularly the racial inclusion and equity neighborhoods that drive absolutely everything that this administration is doing to make sure that we have resources for food, childcare, and many other things.
So your office specifically is like serving a coordinating role? Are you like driving the effort? Like what specifically, you have any specific initiatives?
We are making sure, so we do not operate programs other than these sort of governance initiatives, right, which are for the city writ large. But we're making sure that, for instance, the summer food service program, in times in the previous administration, and we had to really reduce the allowable distance of how frequently summer meal sites could, the distance between them. We work with EDC and others as they're thinking about the FRESH program, and different programs, and really trying to underscore again that the penetration of these programs is happening where they're needed most. So we provide advisement and oversight for all city agencies to make sure that the mayor's food priorities are expressed in all of the programs that are operated.
I yield my time, Chair.
Thank you. I'd now like to call on Councilmember Joseph.
Thank you. Mine, of course, will be around schools because I had my hearing, and my students, they said the food was horrible. How do we change that? A lot of them are not for Vegan Friday. Maybe the approach should be different. And in your previous conversation, you said you were doing surveys, and I think we left the students out. We tend to give them stuff, but not make them part of the conversation.
Thank you. I also have 2 students who, as of today, are in 5th and 3rd grade. And I hear a lot myself. And I also know that to operate 1,200 kitchens across the city is an enormous undertaking. And unfortunately, it's not, what's going on in schools is not comparable to others because of all different kinds of things, from equipment to size. My kids are in a very large school. It's very challenging for them to get the kind of service that they were used to in a 300-person public school. So these are all the factors that MOFP is working with DOE leadership on to make sure that school food becomes the model for the country, not just in terms of the meal provision, but also in the education that we're providing around food. So this is a lofty, long-term vision, but I share your experiences, and I'm committed to working with the Department of Education and the council on that.
I know Chris also talked about farm to school. Is that something you're working on? Could you share a little bit more about that initiative?
I mean, farm to school is very hard to define, but I do know that there are about just shy of 1,000 school gardens across the city. Again, making those connections, and even one school garden is very different than the next school garden and the next school garden, but making sure that there is not just a directory of where those are, but also trying to make the integration more and more to the local product, the New York State product that is coming into the school, that it's not just the Jamaican beef patty, but I know that we have apples, I know that we have carrots, I know that we have other items, and making sure that that can become connected and that kids have a pride around that. It is New York Pride after all, right? And so those are the kinds of things that, farm to school is everything about learning about the food that you're eating, to connecting how food is grown, and ultimately building those lifelong habits.
And Councilman up a very important topic. I used to run a summer program with the foods, and lots of food went to waste. And this is a city where we also have a lot of children that go to sleep at night hungry. How do we minimize the waste?
Thank you for that. Both, the food waste is something that the city takes incredibly seriously, and we've been working for years with the Department of Agriculture federally. The school meal program is a federally authorized program, and we're looking to find ways in which we can, and I know DOE has a few ideas that they're exploring to be able to minimize that and also ensure that food that is able to be distributed elsewhere, where they're working to solve for that.
Well, thank you, chairs. That was the end of my question.
Thank you so much. I'd now like to call Councilmember Aviles.
Good afternoon. Thank you, chairs, and thank you so much. Along the lines of continuing in the food element, one of the things in the last hearing that we heard, and certainly I've experienced as a mom of 2 public school students, is the enormous waste that happens in school buildings, which is generally a result of state or federal guidelines around what must be provided. I'm assuming that this is also potentially a problem with other city agencies that may have similar regulations that really just don't work, right? That lend to continued food waste. So I was wondering, what does the advocacy of the agencies look like to push against federal state regulation that really isn't sensible on the ground, and we see what it leads to? And also, how does rescuing food look like and weigh into like contracts and operational aspects?
Again, thank you for continuing to bring this topic up. I would defer to the agencies themselves and the language in their specific contracts. I do know that over the course of the pandemic, there were specific elements included into those contracts where if something couldn't be delivered, let's say. Now, obviously, we're not doing 1 million home-delivered meals a day anymore, so the elements will have to change. But I would say also, last Tuesday, we convened the first in the country's convening in a lead-up to the White House Conference on Hunger, Health, and Nutrition at Gracie Mansion with Mayor Adams. And the White House is looking to New York City to make recommendations across all federal programs for change. I've had several conversations specifically with USDA, and I think this is an element, again, not just about nutrition standards, right, but about those connections to sustainability and to environment. And Washington is also looking at connecting food to climate goals. So that provides a great opportunity for us to, share our experiences and show how federal leadership can really benefit all cities and rural areas as well.
I definitely appreciate that advocacy, as this has been such a long-standing issue, and the amount of waste is mind-blowing in the midst of an ongoing food insecurity across the city, where we see still very long lines of folks needing food, and in every school, public school building, we are throwing away untouched, perfectly good food. So thank you for that, and I hope we will push them as hard as possible, and along the lines of culturally relevant food as well, which is another element where we haven't seen nearly enough gains in relation to both the urgency and just the long-standing advocacy, because communities of color, immigrant communities didn't just show up, they've been here for hundreds of years, so thank you.
So one more question about the seniors, because maybe this is for DCAS, but right now, when you're running a center and you have to put your menu list months and months in advance, again, this is 20 years of discussion, it's really hard to substitute, blueberries when you had strawberries or whatever. How can we be more flexible on those menus? Now, that's not you maybe, but who is it? Is it the nutritionist? Is it DFTA? It doesn't happen. It's always a challenge. And that's how we get our local produce. If you have your menu 6 months in advance, you don't know that the blueberries are going to be in season or whatever. You need to be able to have that kind of flexibility. What do you suggest on that kind of front?
So just to reiterate, DCAS doesn't purchase for DFTA, but I think that something like you're saying could be handled in the contract drafting process. So, you could have it be you could have it say seasonal fruit as opposed to be specific to blueberries or strawberries or something like that. And so you could kind of lay it out. It's like, okay, in the first quarter of the year, here's what will be acceptable for you to serve. In the second quarter of the year, here's what would be acceptable for you to serve. And it's all about approved equals. And as long as you're making the vendor aware of what that process is going to be in order to determine whether something's an approved equal, I think that's fair to put that into the contract.
It's a problem. The nutritionists are a problem, and so it needs to be addressed. Otherwise, every barrier to locally sourced food has to be addressed. And just so you know, that's another one. And the other question I have quickly about the seniors is, again, it's the issue with the smaller vendors working with the older adult centers. They procure, and they want to know as we go forward with this, I think, good agendas that you're trying to produce, they want to make sure that they can use the local vendors that they have, because they do want to have Korean, Chinese cuisines, and they are nervous that if we have something that isn't flexible enough, they're not going to be able to do that kind of flexibility that they need. So I don't know if you can respond to that, but we've got to find a system that's flexible at the local level, that gets these vendors at the citywide level to give you the granular information that you need. And then, of course, we need more funding, I think, probably for the upstate farmers to figure out how they can be more responsive. But are you going to be flexible enough, do you think, in this new system to work with the DFTA contracts?
That is our intention. Underscoring everything that we've mentioned around working everywhere from the ACOs to the program staff to the solicitation to the contract negotiation.
And the reporting, too.
And the reporting.
Not too onerous, but getting to what you need to get.
Yeah. So it's not just a, renew.
Okay. And then the other issue would be, as you do sustainable purchasing, what I call locally purchasing, but maybe good jobs more, will there be any kind of incentives for the companies to do that? Or is that something that they just have to do?
I think those are, again, some of the conversations that we would love ideas on how to explore in partnership with the law department.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Can I ask a follow-up actually to what Gail just asked?
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay,
yes.
sorry.
No, I'm just
Okay.
kidding, of course.
I mean, so I think the question I would have as a vendor is, because I do think that at least DIFTA, from what I can tell, has been pretty flexible about allowing contractors to purchase from like the local supermarkets, but I think the bigger picture question I have is, how can we make it more cost effective for the vendors? Because when you go off to these one-off supermarkets, it's more costly, right? It's more expensive to do that. So I guess my question to you all is, how do you, which is sort of what I was asking before, but maybe not as eloquently, which is how do we include some of those more ethnic-specific supermarkets into that system so that there's bigger purchasing power there, so it's less expensive for the vendors when they buy that stuff, if that makes sense?
I think I know exactly what you're asking, and again, it's creating different types of scopes for work that we don't have right now. And, you know, this is, if we're talking about pulling in different types of vendors, who's the applicant, and then sort of like, are they subs? So all of those different arrangements, I think it's, you know, it's important to mention, I think it was you, council member, you know, DOE has, it's not a long lead time, it's like 18 months. And so thinking now and planning now for what, if any, evolutions or changes we'll need, every agency needs that sort of visioning moment of like, what's working, what do we need to do, and is our current version of our contract gonna get us there?
Thank you. I'd like to also acknowledge we've been joined by Councilmember Salamanca and Councilmember for the Day, Aiden. And I think, and I believe Chair Juan has one more follow-up.
This is from Councilmember Nurse, who asked us to ask, for the record, is it possible to get a follow-up on whether MOX is working with Black Farmers United and a Northeast Farmers of Color? So Black Farmers United and Northeast Farmers of Color, they're two advocacy groups that I think she would like to see.
Thank you, Chair Juan. I actually think that there's a lot of activity in this space that I maybe defer to Director McKinsey to speak on.
I'm familiar with the first organization, but the second, Northeast?
Farmers of Color.
Farmers what? Okay, yes, Farmers of Color. I'm writing it down, because in our food forward planning, we did engage with more than 300 different organizations and collectives. I don't want to speak definitively on this, and if we don't have a relationship, I would love to find that.
Thank you, chairs, and to members of the administration. We will now turn to the public testimony portion of the hearing. For virtual panelists, we'd just like to remind everyone that we will be calling individuals one by one to testify, and we will be limiting public testimony today to 3 minutes. So please listen for your name to be called. Once the sergeant has started the timer, you can begin your testimony. Council members who have questions for a particular panelist should raise their hands, and council members who are attending virtually should use the Zoom raise hand function. Once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you, and the sergeant at arms will set the timer and give you the go-ahead to begin. Please wait for the sergeant to announce that you may begin before delivering your testimony. And I'll now turn it to the chair to announce the panelists.
The first panelist we will hear from is Mayor Ulrich, and my apologies on the pronunciation, followed by Ripka Getachew.
Starting time.
Mayor's wonderful, just so you know.
Mayor, if you are speaking, we cannot hear you. Okay, so while we wait, is she unmuted? Okay, while we wait to figure that out, we will move to Ripka.
Starting time. Hello, everyone. Chairperson Farias, Chairperson Wan, Chairperson Brewer, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Rivka Getachew, and I am the director of the New York Good Food Purchasing Program campaign at Community Food Advocates. In my position, I've worked very closely with our city and with partners around the country who are actively implementing the Good Food Purchasing Program, which is why I'm here today to testify in support of Intro 517. As was mentioned earlier, of course, this bill seeks to further codify the city's commitment to the Good Food Purchasing Program. For context, the Good Food Purchasing Program is the first procurement tool and model of its kind that has been utilized in cities across the United States, from LA to Chicago to Boston and many others. As we've started to hear today, it provides a comprehensive set of tools, technical support, and resources to support public institutions in shifting towards a values-based procurement model. Quite simply, this program aims to, on one hand, hold large vendors accountable to better practices, while also ensuring that small and historically marginalized vendors like Black, Indigenous, and other POC farmers and food producers have more opportunities to contract with our public agencies. Working in close partnership with the Food Chain Workers Alliance, CUNY Urban Food Policy Institute, and the Center for Good Food Purchasing, we at Community Food Advocates have been building a robust coalition of over 30 local and national food system experts that align with the 5 value areas that serve as the pillars of the Good Food Purchasing Program. This was mentioned earlier at the top of the hearing, but I'll just flag them again. Those value areas are local economies, valued workforce, animal welfare, nutrition, and environmental sustainability. Many of the phenomenal experts in this coalition are lending their support to this bill today in the form of both verbal and/or written testimony. Our city serves approximately 230 million meals a year across its public food serving agencies, a tremendous amount. And they collectively spend about $500 million annually on food. These agencies serve some of our most vulnerable and food insecure populations, including but not limited to, of course, senior citizens, students, those who are unhoused, incarcerated individuals, and those under medical care. This is why I think that the Good Food Purchasing Program, this is why I think of the Good Food Purchasing Program as a tool that in its true essence seeks to amplify the power of these communities who have historically had the least amount of say in determining their food realities.
Time expired.
We have the power to change this. Sorry, what was that?
It was your time expiring. If you can wrap up in the next couple minutes.
Okay, I'll wrap up quickly. Considering our city's tremendous purchasing power, New York City is especially primed and uniquely positioned to become a clear leader on the Good Food Purchasing Program in this country, taking a firm stance in declaring that good food relies on a values-driven food system, one that's ecologically and economically viable, sustainable, truly racially just and socially responsible, humane, safe, and teeming with nutritious and culturally relevant foods. We know that Mayor Adams has taken a clear stance on the Good Food Purchasing Program by signing Executive Order 8 in February of this year. It's important to lift up the work of the Mayor's Office of Food Policy and city agencies that have already begun implementing the Good Food Purchasing Program baseline reporting and action planning. We also recognize that the City Council codifying the Good Food Purchasing Program is essential and instrumental to the longevity and the durability of the city's commitment to GFPP, or the Good Food Purchasing Program, no matter a change in leadership. The New York City Good Food Purchasing Coalition has been leveraging our expertise to work with the administration and City Council to advance this program, the Good Food Purchasing Program. We look forward to working with you all in the City Council to ensure that we codify the strongest and most substantive policy, and our ongoing work with the Mayor's Office of Food Policy to support the most effective implementation of the Good Food Purchasing Program. We thank Speaker Adams and all of the other bill sponsors and all of you here today for your leadership on this introduction 517. I hope you'll all join us in the good food movement as we seek to push forward Intro Intro 517. I thank you all for your support today. Take care.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I will try one more time for Mayor Ulrich, if we can. Is she unmuted? Okay, we're having some audio trouble. I will try again to come back to you, and we'll have someone reach out on the side. Next up for public testimony is Michelle Villagomez.
Starting time.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Villagomez. I'm the Senior Director for the ASPCA, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. I thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of Intro 517, which would create a good food purchasing program, which we call GFPP in New York City. The ASPCA is a national partner to the GFPP. It provides a metric-based flexible framework to encourage large institutions to direct their buying power in allegiance with the 5 core values mentioned. We played a key role in crafting its animal welfare standards, and we support efforts around the country to incorporate good food purchasing principles into municipal institutional food sourcing practices. We've prioritized this work given the significant potential values-based food procurement has to improve the lives of nearly 10 billion land animals raised for meat, dairy, and eggs in the United States each year. This program offers a practical alternative to many of the welfare problems plaguing animals in today's conventional factory farming model, where animals are forced to endure conditions that are cruel and unnatural, such as highly intensive rearing, for example, being packed into housing facilities by the tens of thousands, or immobilized in cages and crates. There is little to no animal welfare oversight on most farms. There is no scheme in place for on-site inspections and auditing, which good food purchasing aims to add back into the food system. Public and consumer sentiment has increasingly turned against these practices in favor of higher welfare products. Public institutions, including schools, are wonderfully positioned to take up this call, serving as crucial partners in building a new and more humane food system. As such, we've given widespread adoption of institutional values-based food procurement. GFPP is being implemented by municipal governments and school districts across the country, including major cities like Los Angeles and Chicago, representing nearly $1 billion in food spending. This program offers 2 avenues for improving animal welfare. Institutions may opt to direct a percentage of their food dollars towards animal welfare certified products whose meaningfully higher standards are verified by independent on-farm audits. They can reduce their total volume of meat and eggs purchased by supplementing with plant-based alternatives. The most successful institutions will likely combine these strategies. If good food purchasing is enacted in New York City, either option will promote significant and critically needed improvements for animals in our food system while helping to build a robust regional food system that supports farmers producing more food humanely and sustainably and fairly, The ASPCA and the vast majority of New Yorkers believe all animals deserve respectful and compassionate treatment. The GFPP offers cities the opportunity to build on these sentiments by using their purchasing power to commit to standards that impact food production all the way down the line. With all of this in mind, the ASPCA respectfully asks the City Council to send an important message that food should not only be healthy, sustainable, and fair, but also ensure compassionate treatment of farm animals. We thank you for your time and consideration of Intro 517 and our coalition suggested amendments to strengthen the bill, which we have sent to the committee. Thank you so much, chairs and council members.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say a reminder to my colleagues, if you have questions, please let us know or use the raise hand function if you are virtual. And for the additional testimony, to please stay within your time as close as you possibly can. 3rd time's a charm. Mayor, can we see if you...
I'm here. Sorry about that. I had to run down the hall.
We're just glad we can get you on. You can start.
Starting time.
I just want to talk a little bit about, economics for agriculture. So I hear a lot of very worthy opinion or, plans that New York City has for buying local, helping support local farmers. And that one of the other things that hasn't been mentioned is, supporting local farmers helps support open space. So enjoying those, rides upstate with all that open land. A lot of that is farmer owned, not just the pastures, but the woodlots and whatnot. So just want to throw that in. But I think I've heard a little bit about it, but probably not enough, that if you want to have these goals of more local, more specific kinds of farms, particularly smaller farms, you want to institute more requirements, you're going to have to pay more. This all comes at a cost, and I would hope it doesn't come at the cost of the farmer. Right now, a lot of regulations are, put upon farmers, rightfully so, whether it's food safety or something else. But the food safety regulations that have come down federally in the last few years, all of those costs are borne by the farmer. There's a little bit of reimbursement programs from some areas, but it really isn't enough. Anybody who's a fairly sizable fruit or vegetable farmer has to have an employee who does nothing but keep up the paperwork for this. So that's the kind of thing that I would encourage is the conversation has to start with how much more money. And I think part of the problem with the 10% is that 10% really isn't enough. New York State has seen some movement with school food when we're talking more like 30%. And so I know that's a big number, especially when you apply it across all those meals. So just looking at how it's going to be funded, not just what the final goal is, because I don't think you'll get to the goal if you don't have the funds to go along with, and to really support that farmer in that local food, small farms, specialty farms, it really does all cost them more to do business because they don't have the economy of scale. It is a little more money more costly to do business in southeastern New York, even New York State in general. So I would just recommend that the council and everyone else keep dollars in mind. That's all.
Mary, my question is Gail. How are you?
Okay, how are you?
Because of all your experience at Cornell and otherwise.
That's true. I should have introduced myself. I'm Mary. I work with Cornell Cooperative Extension in Orange County, but I work on several statewide teams and have worked with Gail in the past on things. Sorry. Go ahead, Gail.
My question is, what kind of lead time, I know we discussed this, do you need if DOE is really going to buy from the farmers? And has that been discussed? Have you heard anything to the effect that New York City really is serious about buying in the kind of quantities that would be of assistance to your farmers? Have you heard any of those kinds of discussions?
So we go back and forth, I think you mentioned 2011, so that'd be 11 years now, when you first came up to Orange County and we went on a little tour. So both DOE and DCAS have purchased locally. Gets a little hard for me to know exactly who's buying what, especially now with Nourish, and that Grow NYC does purchasing from a lot of local farmers and then does some of the, is the middleman for some. So I know there's some. I'm sure there could be more. I think the answer to your question in terms of timing depends on what we're talking about. Somebody mentioned blueberries earlier. You'd need to give a farmer, probably 3 or 4 years warning if you wanted blueberries in any quantity. The part of the economics I want to bring up too, as I say blueberries, because they're a hot commodity, they're a pricey crop. There are some things that maybe you never will get because they are just cost prohibitive to buy locally because there's a lot of hand labor involved in picking them. They just really are a high value retail crop here in southeastern New York, or even in most of New York State. So you probably want to figure out what, pun intended, the low hanging fruit are that, and if we've done some of that, cabbage, potatoes, onions, apples, dairy products are all competitively priced. We started, but I don't think we ever really figured out how to do the dairy because we kind of got snagged on who's buying what from who and all the labels and trying to figure out exactly how to go backwards in terms of which ones are really New York State milk. It's not too hard, but it's a little more difficult than figuring out where apples came from, whose milk went into that container of sour cream that's at that child care center.
I was going to say, hopefully when the city gets the more granular information from the suppliers and the vendors and the distributors, then we'll have that information. That will be helpful to all of us.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Thank you so much.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Next up, we're going to hear from Stephanie A. Arthur, and after that, Ravi Reddy, and then Aracelis Lucero.
Starting time.
Sorry, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair Wan, Chair Brewer, Chair Ferris, and members of the committees presented. My name is Stephanie Arthur, and I am a policy and legislative coordinator at African Communities Together. And it's through ACT that I also work with the Language Access Collaborative, which is comprised of our partners, Asian American Federation, New York Immigration Coalition, MASA, and Empire Justice. On behalf of ACT, I would like to first applaud and thank the council for their major accomplishment in passing the recent budget that would allocate funding for the implementation of language access services through both a community interpreter bank and community-led worker cooperatives. Specifically, we'd like to thank Councilmember Wan for your passion, your advocacy, and your leadership in ensuring that the most vulnerable in our communities can access resources that would help them navigate their quality of life responsibilities confidently and securely. ACT is very pleased to assist the council as they consider an implementation approach to language access services by first creating the preferred vendor list, which is through the introduction of 136. And so through this list, we believe that the list needs to be accredited and properly vetted to ensure the integrity and quality of services being offered to our immigrant community. As you consider how this list will be created and structured, ACT would like to give you some insight on some of the challenges that we face with our clients with access to translation and interpretation services. And hopefully that can provide some recommendations. We'll provide some proposed recommendations that could possibly, guide you on the way forward. And so first, our community members face challenges in finding reputable and experienced interpreters who possess the range of African languages spoken within the African community other than French. Our office often receives calls from our new immigrant members who are unable to access city services because they are not able to communicate with city agencies in their preferred language and dialect. We are proposing that vendors who may provide services offer a variety of the most spoken African dialects and languages. And we can provide that, after this testimony in some data points. Second, we are aware that we're aware that both city agencies and city-funded nonprofits depend heavily on telephonic interpretation services, which face significant issues of availability, quality, and cost. Telephonic interpretation has been less desirable than in-person interpretation for establishing trust and rapport with our clients, as well as with the interpreters.
Time expired.
In high-stake matters like deportation cases. What we're finding is that telephonic interpreters cost a lot, but also the problem is that they do not speak the nuanced languages within the African community. So someone from the Francophone community, the assumption is that they only speak French, but their preferred language may be one of the most nuanced languages like Mandingo, Bambara, Wolof. And so they can't trust that what they're communicating is accurately being understood and accurately being then communicated to the resource provider, right? And so we are asking and proposing that the vendors that are doing the telephonic interpreting also possess kind of the variety of languages spoken within the African community. So lastly, and I'll close by saying that while these issues are particularly acute in relation to the immigration legal services, what we find is that they do cut across city-funded services elsewhere, like obviously the DOE, housing, and other social service needs. And so we are in support of the Introduction 136 and finding a preferred vendor list that is vetted, that has the resources and the capacity to manage the variety of languages within the African community, that has, a data resource where they can accurately collect data, recruit, train, and be able to manage privacy standards and compliance standards within the community protecting the information. So we thank you again for the time. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and have a great day.
Thank you so much. Ravi Reddy.
Starting time.
Thank you so much. I want to thank Chairs Juan, Farias, and Brewer, and the council members of the committees for holding this hearing and giving the Asian American Federation the opportunity to testify on the language access needs of our community. My name is Ravi Reddy, the Associate Director of Advocacy and Policy at AAF, where we proudly represent the collective voice of more than 70 member nonprofits serving 1.5 million Asian New Yorkers. As we'll discuss today, language access is essential in the vastly diverse city of New York, and with legislation like Intro 136A, introduced by Chair Juan, more can be done to reach the LEP communities of our city and prioritize them in our city contracting processes. But first, thank you for advocating on our community's behalf for the inclusion of funding in this year's city budget for a community interpreter bank and worker-owned language co-ops for our communities. With these proposals, we will see the payoff in multiple ways, from providing employment opportunities in our immigrant communities to relieving strains on existing CBO capacity to providing interpretation to addressing the serious gap in quality language interpretation for the communities that need it the most. When it comes to immigration, Asian community members have consistently been unable to navigate complex citizenship processes that are language limited. More than at any other time, immigration policies are in such a state of flux that our communities will need sustained in-language engagement to stay abreast of changing policies, processes, and documents. As we consistently know, good policies mean nothing if the people they're meant to help don't know about them. And with our community in the midst of a mental health crisis, mental health service delivery in the city's most diverse community is notoriously difficult but very urgent. More than 20 Asian ethnic groups are represented within our city, speaking dozens of languages. Aside from the logistics of mental health service delivery in a crisis, cultural stigma around mental health adds an additional layer of service delivery complexity. The shortage of linguistically and culturally competent mental health practitioners, which is particularly serious in areas of specialty, highlights the urgency to address these gaps and ensure that our community has equal access to mental health services and all social services that cater to their unique needs, especially through city entities. And one thing is clear when it comes to assisting our small businesses in crisis. Even when a service is much needed, it is crucial to provide both outreach and one-on-one support to ensure LEP immigrant business owners can access it. Small business owners in our community have consistently been shown to have been hit earlier and harder by the COVID pandemic and the ensuing xenophobia. We are glad the latest version of Intro 136 includes interpretation within its ambit, as our community deals not just with the translation of written materials, but more often with verbal interpretation services. As Stephanie mentioned from our partner organization, African Communities Together, we would like to see efforts aimed at quality control, including accreditation efforts and a focus on existing capacity within our communities. Our community members and organizations that serve them should be the first called upon and supported to provide translation and interpretation assistance. In our work and the work of our member and partner organizations, we are consistently reminded that much of the language accessibility issues our community is grappling with relate to issues of capacity. Our communities are often the last to know about key information, and the pandemic has demonstrated that there is still much work to be done in making sure our community, many of whom are our first-line workers, benefit from the work of our city agencies. Legislation like Intro 136A and proposals like the Community Interpreter Bank and worker co-ops are steps in exactly that direction, and we look forward to working with all of you to support our community members and CBOs that so expertly serve them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up is Aracelis Lucero, followed by Kara Shannon, and then Craig Willingham. Just a reminder to those testifying, we do have your written testimony, so you do not have to read it word for word. Aracelis?
Starting time.
Hi, yes. Nice to see everybody. My name is Aracelis Lucero. I am the Executive Director of MASA, Tlazokamati. Thank you to the committee chairs, Juan, Fares, and Brewer, and to all of the City Council members here present. We would also like to extend our great gratitude to Julie Juan and to all the advocates for your leadership during the budget process, trying to get the Language Access Campaign funded. We look forward to working with everybody to make sure that it's a success. MASA is a community-based organization that works with Mexican and Latin American immigrant children, youth, and families in the South Bronx. We have a community-led integrated model that ensures the entire family, that integrates the entire family, and we are grounded in a deep commitment to strengthening literacy, leadership, and power for Mexican, Central American, and Indigenous people. A significant number of community members, especially amongst our Indigenous-speaking community, are also limited English and Spanish proficient, and they have limited digital literacy and limited literacy skills, which presents a series of challenges that make it very difficult to navigate many of New York City's public services. Translation, and especially in-person interpretation services in languages that are least commonly spoken, are direly needed. Historically, and most notably during the pandemic, we saw how ill-prepared the city was to respond to the diverse language needs of immigrant communities. Everything from 311 to public assistance portals to health agencies to the Department of Education, and the use of language lines was very limiting. Many of MASA's community members have complained about often being matched to an interpreter that doesn't really speak their Indigenous language, and most of all, that wasn't culturally sensitive to their needs and realities, often making them feel bad and discouraging them from completing processes. And most aren't even made aware of their rights to get services in their language. I have many stories and examples of why it is so critical that we do more by supporting community-based and grassroots organizations who have the unique knowledge, cultural fluency, and language ability to become true partners in this effort to ensure services are being known and utilized by the people who need it the most. But there is one story that I'll share today, hopefully I get to get through it, that really gives a clear example of why this is necessary. During the pandemic, we were able to work with a community member named Evaristo. He was 38 years, well, he is 38, probably 40 by now. And in early 2020, had recently migrated from Mexico. His primary language is Tapaneco, an indigenous language of Mexico. He does not know how to read or write, and at the time had no family here, but a cousin who was equally as terrified to be discovered by ICE. Evaristo was referred to us by a family member who knew about him and who was really concerned that he was sick and in isolation with no real support. We tried to get him services to go to Lincoln Hospital, but he was really afraid because of his immigration status. After speaking to Lincoln Hospital and getting somebody to actually meet with him and try to guide him to through the process, we explained to him that support and wouldn't be deported. The whole point of this story really is to highlight that this person was in isolation for a very long time. Had he had a community member who spoke his language, who was trusted, he would have ended up going to the hospital and getting support that he needed. Instead, he was 2 months in isolation. We would call him almost daily and deliver food, really not knowing whether he was going to make it. And so this is just a clear example of how the quality of life of immigrants and being able to have a dignified life really will make a difference with Part 136 and getting language services that are culturally competent and that people are going to trust. Thank you, and we look forward to the implementation of language access.
Thank you. I'll now go to Chair Juan for our questions.
Thank you to African Communities Together, Asian American Federation, and MASA for advocating for the Language Bank and Co-op. I want to ask Ravi, Stephanie, and Araceli, the last three panelists, the following questions. The first question is, how is your organization engaged with city agencies on language access issues?
I can start really quickly. The most clear example that comes to mind most recently is with the Department of Education. Information was really flowing slowly. Most of the time what we saw is that English communication would be put out first, both in print and orally, and then subsequently we would see Spanish posted. It was very problematic because both a lot of services, when free testing came out, when what people needed to do for school to getting devices, people were very confused. We didn't have a place to point them to. And so during the pandemic, we really worked closely with a set of partners to address language access and to make sure that we were able to tell community members when the languages that they were speaking were available. But what we've been doing for the last 15 years, especially with the health department, with census, with the Department of Education, is really trying to figure out the people who are most vulnerable, or Indigenous speaking community who are not literate. How do we get them access to information? Most of these languages they don't know how to read and write them. So making sure that there's language access campaigns and information that are in video form, or in the proper ethnic news outlets, as I think Councilmember Julie Wan earlier had noted. And so those are some of the ways.
I'll just add that with African Communities Together, very similarly working with the Department of Education, New York, the Department of Health, as well as ACS, finding someone within the community that could actually interpret kind of the service needs of the client, and then being able to communicate that to the provider. The challenge with that too is there's a cultural competency issue that we've noticed as well. ACT has been an advocate in making sure that there is staff represented in these agencies that can that have a familiarity with the community, but that, can do their best to communicate some of the nuanced languages. But also ACT has worked with African media to be able to get a representative from these agencies in those spaces to be then able to communicate, whether it's through a podcast, whether it's through, FM radio, what new policies are coming down the chain of some of these agencies. And then obviously from the other end, uplifting kind of the concerns of clients and people in the community.
And I think Robbie Reddy on behalf of Asian American Federation, similar to what Araceli and Stephanie said, it really is hard to pull up specific examples because we can't talk about language access. We can't talk about any of our issue areas without talking about language access first. Our seniors working group is working with, our seniors working group consisting of 12 community-based organizations, Asian-led, Asian-serving senior service providers are working with the Department for the Aging to make sure that we're getting language accessible, culturally competent services to our seniors. But across all of our issue areas, we're seeing that the primary focal point of our work is in making sure that city agencies see our Asian-led, Asian-serving organizations as partners, as experts already doing the culturally competent, language-accessible work on the ground, whether that's our senior service organizations comprising our senior working group, or the mental health providers, many of whom are highlighted in our recently put together mental health database at mhd.aafederation.org. Or, if it comes to our programmatic work, our small business teams are doing incredible work with SBS and a number of different agencies, making sure that we're getting culturally competent and we're getting culturally competent and language accessible resources to small business owners. And one thing we're learning is that, especially in our work with agencies across these issue areas, it's not just making sure that it's language accessible, but in crisis, it's also making sure it's of quality and that it's timely. And more often than not, what we've seen in a number of different issue areas is that those have been mutually exclusive asks. We can get it quickly, but we can't get it high quality. We can get it high quality, but it'll take more time. And a lot of our work across these issue areas is showing that so much of the work is already being done. We just need support from the city, or we need them to be recognized. And I think that's where some of this legislation can go a very long way.
Thank you. My last question for the three panelists is describe the issues or limitations of telephonic interpretations currently provided by the city, colloquially referred to as the language line.
I think, Aracelis Formasa again, well, one, I don't think a lot of our community members even know that they have a right to the language line. Most of the time we get a lot of community members discouraged. We have a community member that's waiting for an appointment since November because she's been told that there isn't anybody available that speaks her language to have. And this is just Spanish. other community members that do speak an Indigenous language, a lot of the times have complained that the person on the other end it's not the same variation of the language that they speak. And so I think that there is a lack of, and it spreads. There's a lack of trust even in the language line. I think it does have a very bad reputation. And I think for sensitive issues, it really is uncomfortable to have somebody on the line that you don't trust, that you don't know, hearing about very sensitive things that they would hope to share that are part of the problem, but that they don't get an opportunity to fully disclose because they don't trust a person on the line who knows nothing about them and who they don't think is getting the message across, the urgency and the sensitivity of the issue. So those are some of the things that we've seen and have been communicated from community members.
Yeah, this is Stephanie from African Communities Together. I echo Araceli's point. I think it's a real trust issue. And so when we talk about members in our community that have to deal with deportation issues, they, can't trust that the interpreter, one, is accurately understanding what they're trying to communicate, and then transferring it over to the service provider or the decision maker or whatever accurately. And so they're apprehensive about sharing information, they're unsure, and that kind of it defeats the purpose of the kind of language access that we're trying to provide to the community if they can't trust the agencies to accurately service them.
And to put an exclamation point on what's already been said, we're working in coalition representing communities that are incredibly diverse, even amongst communities that have similar languages but different dialects. These are specificities that are only really well understood, expertly understood by people within our community. So when we have community members being asked to call the language line, there isn't an element of trust there that exists with the community-based organizations they would go to anyways for these services if they were being provided by our organizations. There is an element of trust that already exists within our communities, but it's made redundant when our community members who are already isolated are being asked to call into some hotline with someone they don't even know, possibly linking them to someone who doesn't speak the right language in a crisis situation. So it all exasperates one incident after the other, that there is a lack of trust, and then it is almost impossible to ask any company or contractor to provide all the languages that represent the diversity of the city, much less the Asian community or the Latinx community or the African community, whereas all that expertise is already in our communities, whether it's their community-based organizations or individual community members. So, to underline what's already been said, the lack of trust is just a function of experience, that there are so many smaller languages that aren't represented that we couldn't possibly expect to be represented in a hotline. So yeah, that's
Thank you
us.
so much. I look forward to working with you to see this come to fruition this year. Thank you.
Next up is Kara Shannon.
Starting time.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kara Shannon. I am the Director of Farm Animal Welfare Policy at the ASPCA, and I was joining today just in case there were any technical questions about the animal welfare standards that my lovely colleague Michelle couldn't answer. And since there weren't any, and you've already heard the ASPCA's testimony and support, I could just cede my time right back. Thank you.
Wow, rock star. Thank you so much. Craig Willingham.
Starting time.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Craig. I'm the Managing Director for Urban Policy, and I want for providing me time to. Today's hearing is meant to explore codifying through Intro 517 the city's commitment to using the Good Food Purchasing Program framework for citywide food procurement, a move that actually to enable New York City significant progress in reducing the need of public dollars to purchase the city's food. We support Intro 517 and want to highlight key factors that we believe the council should consider as it seeks to improve New York City's approach to food procurement. The first being the city should prioritize building partnerships with organizations invested in the 5 GFPP value categories in order to help provide oversight and input and to ensure that the policy is making substantive progress in changing the procurement practices for the better. Second, providing opportunities for input from city agencies on the implementation of this policy to identify specific strategies for better aligning with existing and related policies. Third, ensure that prospective vendors have all the information needed to respond to GFPP requirements and provide resources to support their transition from current procurement practices towards a values-based procurement approach. Fourth, make clear that the city's meaningful progress on each of the GFPP 5 value categories should be the goal, not a piecemeal implementation that organically defaults to unequal progress within categories. For example, success on local economies, but failure on animal welfare. Fifth, develop a tracking system to monitor procurement to continually assess alignment with values-based purchasing models. And last but not least, sixth, explore the possibility of a centralized institutional food procurement system. The CUNY Urban Policy Institute offers its academic expertise and research capacities to assist the City Council and the Mayor's Office of Food Policy in ensuring that values-based procurement has in fact taken root and grown in New York City. And so we can celebrate our accomplishments and set new, even more ambitious goals for the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our final testimony will be from Suzanne Adderley.
Starting time.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today about the Good Food Purchasing Program. I am the co-director of the Food Chain Workers Alliance, a national coalition of 34 food worker organizations throughout the food economy. Many of our member organizations are located in the New York City and New York State area. And we have been proponents of the Good Food Purchasing Program, or GFPP for short, for the last decade, working to pass similar policies in cities and counties across the country. And we believe that these policies will allow localities to use the power of public procurement to protect workers in the food economy. Food workers, and the majority who come from Black, Indigenous, Latinx, and immigrant communities, are the lowest paid and most food insecure of any other workforce in the US, and are disproportionately impacted by health and safety violations and unfair labor practices in our corporate food system. Our public dollars can and should fund a food procurement system that supports farms and food businesses, that pay fair wages, provide safe working conditions, and do not retaliate against workers when they exercise their right to organize. And that's why we support the New York City Council's adoption of the Good Food Purchasing Program. It has emerged as a way to shift our public supply chain towards better conditions for workers. The Food Chain Workers Alliance helped develop the Good Food Purchasing Program in 2012, and since then has provided direct support to community leaders working with their local institutions to adopt the program in cities and counties around the country. When we began our work here in New York City with our fellow coalition partners in 2016 to work closely with city leadership in building a strong foundation for values-based procurement. We believe that New York City agencies should be able to reserve the right to reject, bid, and cut contracts for those suppliers who fail to comply with the standards you intend to put forth, and particularly those vendors who violate fundamental labor laws. We also believe that bidders should be encouraged to provide their sourcing data so that agencies as well as the public are aware of where our food is coming from and can support implementation from an informed position. We really appreciate your leadership in taking this critical step for formal adoption. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for everyone that stood at today's hearing to testify, and for the administration to come and give us all of their remarks and answer our questions. I'd like to see if my colleagues would like to have any final statements.
I want to say thank you to both council members, Arias and Juan, and the staff, and just to say from the oversight and investigations perspective and my long history, I definitely support 517, but the portion that I am adamant about is the city of New York, in order to save the farmers and save our lives in New York, absolutely have to find a way that the food that our agency clients and guests and customers eat is fresh, wholesome, nutritious, and it has to come from locally based enterprises, farms and businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and this hearing is adjourned at 3:54.